hands. Examine iyang hands. Then if in case there are no burns or indication of burns or blisters appearing on the skin of the person, then he will be declared as innocent. Pero kung may blisters or burns appearing on the skin of the person who submerged deep into the boiling pot, then what will happen is that he will be declared as guilty of the accusation. Again, the trial by ordeal, ang akong giskutan kaganina, like the red hot iron ordeal, the boiling water ordeal, the cold water ordeal, ordeal by battle, kani silang tanan follow sa principle that God will protect the innocent, or God's will protect the innocent. So even if you will submerge both of your hands as deep as going to the bottom of the boiling pot, still the people believe a long time ago that nothing will happen to you if you are innocent. In the case of witchcraft, ang ginagamit nila sa una is what we call as the cold water ordeal, because they believe that witches a long time ago has phobia of cold water. So mabaluan nila kung nag-practice ba og witchcraft ang saka tao. Next is ordeal of the red water. The ordeal of the sassy bark of red water is used in the wide region of Africa. The accused is made to fast for 12 and then swallows a small amount of rice. He is then immersed into a dark colored water or colored after. The water is actually emetic, and if the suspect ejects all the rice, he is considered innocent of the charge. Otherwise, the accused will be considered as guilty. Napunta ginatawag og ordeal by combat or the ordeal by battle, wherein the aggrieved party claimed the right to fight the alleged offender and to pay a champion to fight for him. So if in case the accused wins in that combat, then the accused shall be considered as an innocent. But if in case mapildi ang accused from the challenge from the aggrieved party by means of combat, so ma-declare siya nga guilty. So dapat pwede ang accused or pwede ang complainant siya mismo personally will fight against the alleged offender, or pwede po nga mopili ang complainant or ang aggrieved party og champion. Mangita siya laing tao nga mo fight against the alleged offender. So if in case the daog ang champion that belongs to the aggrieved party, then of course the offender, based on the principle of the ordeal, he shall be considered as guilty of the accusation. The next one is ordeal by blessed bread. A priest puts the corsned or hallowed bread into the mouth of the accused with various imprecations or incantations. If the accused swallowed it, he was freed from punishment. Kaya sila believe a long time ago nga once guilty ang individual, dili niya maswallow ang bread, kaning corsned. Or the smell out technique. Kung sa basis ani smell out technique, sweating causes body odor and guilt is determined when foul odor is exhibited due to extreme fear and nervousness. So according to the smell out technique, once a person will emit or will extract a foul odor, something that is fetid, what will happen is there is an indication, according to the people a long time ago, an indication that the foul odor is the result, the consequence of nervousness or extreme fear, and that will be the basis also of determining that the person is telling deception or is telling a lie. So therefore, kung may foul odor ang tao, kung baho siya, ma-declare siya nga guilty. Another is the sacred ass ordeal, which was practiced in India. So the methodology of this ordeal is that the suspects are told to enter a room one at a time to touch the tail of the cow. Take note nga ang cow, ang baka, is considered as a holy animal in India. Indian people even worship the cow. So ang cow nasa sulod sa room, then musulod ang accused. If the cow would make a loud sound when the accused will touch the tail of that cow, then that person shall be considered as guilty. So according to them, the basis is that unblackened hand is a sign of guilt, merely psychological. So kung pagsulod sa accused, ikapon niya ang tail, ikapon niya ang tail sa baka, tapos ang baka would make a loud sound. Musyagit ang baka o makamingon ang authorities nga, oy, kanin tawan na guilty ni sa accusation. So kani nga mga trial by ordeal, these were the methodologies a long time ago that were utilized to determine whether a person is telling the truth or is telling deception. This may sound very irrelevant nowadays. This may sound very irrelevant or something like very irrational practice, but whether we like it or not, this existed a long time ago because during that time or in ancient times, we do not have scientific methods in the determination of innocence or guilt. Wala pa tayo scientific method a long time ago. Wala pa itong mga tools of investigation. Wala pa tayong polygraph. Wala pa ng fingerprint identification. Wala pa ng police photography. Wala pa ng cybercrime sa unang panahon. So therefore, they have to rely on something that is, a conglomeration of something like theology and culture to create or to invent something of a methodology that would, determine the causes of, that would determine whether a person is guilty or innocent of the accusation. So kalagmitan nato sa ilaha is based on religion. Pareha gud anang kanang principle sa trial by ordeal nga God will protect the innocent. If you are a reader of the Bible, kabantay mo sa Bible na tulo ka tawo diha nga gibutang sa kalayo, si Shadrach, Meshach ug Abednego. Kana silang tulo, these were friends of Daniel. Kung himasa mo Bible, makita ninyo ang storya na sa Daniel nga kaning tulo ka tawo, they refused to worship an idol. But since it was a declaration from the ruler of Babylon, what happened was these three persons, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were thrown to a burning furnace. Tapos, lo and behold, after they were thrown in a burning furnace, lo and behold, after several minutes, the Babylonians were so surprised considering that these three persons were just standing inside the burning furnace. Wa gyud nasunog. Ultimong ilan sa nina, wala nasunog. Ang nasunog lang nila is katong chain. Kanang chain nga nakabutang sa ilang nga kamot. Pero other than that, ang ilang nga sanina o nasunog, ilang bukwa nasunog. So it was a sign that the persons who are innocent are protected by the God. So gipagawa sila sa burning furnace nga walay tatsa, walay blister, walay burns. So sana sa mga basihanan because of the sana sa basihanan sa trial by ordeal that if you are an innocent individual, then you will be protected by the gods. The person who wrote the last book of the Bible, which is Revelation, was John the Revelator. Okay? It was John the Revelator who wrote the last book of the Bible. Unsa may iyang kuan, trial by ordeal sa unang panahon, he was thrown on a boiling pot, inside the boiling pot. Tapos gikuha siya balik kay sa ilang kanang gitusnog kanang whole body ha. Si John Revelator, butang siya sa boiling pot, pero wala man siya nalata, wala siya nasunog, wala ni siya napaso. So sana sa mga basihanan nga ang trial by ordeal is something that would determine the innocent or guilt of a person because God will protect the innocent. Pero wala na taga-practice ani ron. Wala tayo gi-practicean ani ha kanay mga smell out technique. Basin niya may mong police phone, mag-boiling pot, mag-red hot iron ordeal mo or mag-boiling water ordeal. Dili pwede ha. Dili pwede na nga itong i-utilize in criminal investigation because all of these are considered as not scientific. Okay? Next. So right now in our contemporary times, pwede tang makakita or we have, there are indications that we can see that a person is lying or is telling the truth by taking a look on the non-verbal clues. Okay? Pwede tang makagamit og observation method in the detection whether a person is telling a lie or is telling the truth. You can see these indications once you got the chance to interview perpetrators of crimes. So muli kalagmitan nga ilang mga external exhibitions: blushing, paling, profuse sweating, twitching of the lips, excessive winking of the eyes, failure to look the inquirer straight to the eye. That could be a reliable methodology in determining whether a person is telling the lie or telling the truth. Excessive activity of the Adam's apple, drumming of fingers in the chair or fidgeting, swinging of the legs. So posible ni siya nga mga indications. These are clues that the person is telling a lie or is telling deception. But what I'm saying is that, in my opinion, kung may mo umong police phone, never rely too much on these indications. These are just symptoms or clues of deception. But these are not strong evidences. These could not be used as evidences to prove that the person is guilty of the accusation. Okay? What I am saying is that dili pwede nga mahimo nimo ni nga ebidensya sa imong criminal investigation dito sa korte. Nga mayon kadto nga, Your Honor, during my criminal investigation, Your Honor, ako siyang gipangutana kung siya ba'y gadunggab. Uy, nag-profuse sweating man siya. Bali mang paningot niya, Your Honor. Now, akong gipicturean niyang singot. So therefore, Your Honor, kay dagan mo kayo singot, according to Sir Coino, the non-verbal clues of deception, uy, guilty na ni siya. Or nag-lie siya. Wako ningon aron ha? What I am saying right now is that these are just clues of deception. Whatever you will present in court as a sort of evidence or as a sort of claim should be supported with concrete material evidences. Okay? So kung mayon ka nito nga pagpangutanan nimo dili siya makalantaw sa imong mata, indication na nga possibly he is lying. But does not mean nga mayon nakaron nga mo-conclude na ka nga, uy, kani kay lying, guilty guni. Posible lang na nga dili siya mulantaw sa imong mata kay basig gigwapuhan na nas imuha. Pag basig gwapo kay kasi imong paminaw, unya paglantaw sa imong suspect, uy, suspect naibog man nimo. Diba? Naibog ang suspect nimo kay gwapitong pulis man ka. Naibog man ang suspect, o di siya makaharong og lantaw nimo. So dili pwede mo yun, abi kay di nakaharong, guilty na. Pero pwede siyang indication, ha? This could be indications that the person is telling a lie. That is why possibly you were able to experience simulation of interview and interrogation. In the interrogation or adjacent to the interrogation room is an observation room. The purpose of the observation room is to somehow observe, okay? To observe the mannerism of a person, the external actions of the person during the investigation, and try to take a look. Lantaw ka dito nga, uy, na-blushing, na-failure to look, excessive activity, drumming, swinging of the legs. So ikaw ang criminal investigation, paglantaw nimo nga, uy, naaman nga mga indications na naka-lead nga possibly I have to concentrate my investigation to this person considering that there are clues of deception. But I have to be clear ha, dili ni pwede nimo magamit nga evidence in the court. Pwede lang nimo gamiton nga mga clues. Verbal indication of deception during the criminal investigation. That is why, cadets, karong mga panahon na, practice na mo kung saan pag-interview. Okay? Practice na mo interview. You can you can, when you go home, or when you are at home, you know, practice your questioning skills on how you will, skills on how you will extract information by means of trivial communication. Praktisan na ninyo na daan, kay kung mapulis mo pohon, kung ganahan mo magkardo dalisay, panahon nga nakapasar na mo sa board examination, at least when you're assigned in a criminal investigation division, na nakay interviewing skills. Importante ba ni ang interviewing skills? Kay kung ang pulis dili kabalo mo interview o dili kabalo mo interrogate, ang mahitabo is mag-open mag-closed-ended questions ng gamiton. Wa jud kay makuha nga information. So these are verbal indications of deception. Untruthful persons take their time in giving a response. Okay? This is the reality. If the person tells a lie, mentally he will draft an alibi. So the drafting of the alibi may take some time. Okay? Pwede mingon siya ka, who? Me? Or why would I do that? May be used by the respondent or the repeated or pwedeng i-repeat mo question, ma'am, para at least kana ingon ana nga pamaagi or strategy by the accused, he is generating an alibi on a specific situation. The respondent may frame the answer with a request to repeat the question. Or sometimes disjointed or curtailed sentences, even stuttering. Stuttering ha? Sobrang stuttering. Kaya ba mabulol ba ka sa pag-istorya? Even stuttering could be an indication of lying. Statements such as I can't think, it seems to me can be a clue of lying. Okay? Next. Scientifically speaking or psychologically speaking, anger is a common response to an unjust accusation. So dili daw tinuod nga kanang ato bang panultihon in the community, mingon taaron ang mga Bisaya, mingon sila nga kung dili gani tinuod, di ka mangisog, kay di man tinuod. Dili di ay in criminal investigation, kung di ka mangisog ay may tabo, pwede kang ma-considered as one of the persons who committed the crime. Dapat na mangisog ka. Because in criminal investigation, anger is a response to an unjust accusation. So if somebody will or if the police officer will ask the accused, like the officer will say, ikaw ba'y kakawat sa 5,000 pesos sa locker ni Isparsia? Tapos mo mangisog ang accused to the point like using expletive words, posible nga makain ka, oy kani kay isog kaayo, dili jud ni, o posible nga dili siya moy ga-commit sa crime. Okay? Because anger is a response to an unjust accusation. Next. Dishonest persons are often too polite by using often pleasing terms such as sir, or ma'am, or chief. Balik-balikon, sir, dili po na ko ana, sir. Sir, siya ba ana, sir? O, balik-balikon ang kanang sobraan na pagka-polite. That could be an indication of dishonesty. Honest people tend to be very clear in their answers, while untruthful ones tend to speak unclearly. This could be a good methodology in determination of deception. Because honest individuals always have a smooth transition of their answers from point A to point B. There is always a smooth transition of their answers. In comparison to these persons who are dishonest ones, makita nimo nga naay fragmented transition between point A to point B. Fragmented in the sense that wala pa na draft ug maayo niya ang iya nga alibay. Pero ang tao nga honest, ang tao nga truthful, usually has a smooth transition in terms of giving answers. Contradicting testimonies made by the witness are one of the best indicators of dishonesty. Kani common jud na kayo ni. One experience, guys, usa ni sa mga experiences that I cannot forget. I was teaching in North Sushaton for 3 years. So, sa unang panahon, kay stricto man kayo ko sa academic performance of the students. I was also strict in terms of punctuality. May kay ni karon kay sa inyo ha, bisag malate o bisag absent okay lang. Pero sa unang panahon, we were very strict in terms of punctuality. If you are late, you will be considered as absent. If you do not attend on the class, then the next meeting you have to issue an excuse letter and you have to stand in front and you have to speak in front of the audience and you will say, these are the reasons that I did not attend on the last meeting. That's how we did or how we inflict discipline a long time ago. So there was a situation that there were 2 students who failed to take the examination on time. Wala sila ni-take sa examination. So when I talked to these 2 students and I asked them what were the reasons, what are the reasons of the failure from taking the examination? The reasons were, sir, naplatan mi og ligid. Naplatan mi og ligid. So what I did was, clinging on the principles of criminal investigation, what I did was to separate these 2 persons. Separate na ko ang unang nga room, ato si student A. Ikaduha nga room, si student B. So I go to student A and I ask, usara ka question ang akong ipangutana. Asa may na flat? Ang atubangan nga ligid or ang luyo nga ligid? Now again, these honest persons will have to ask for a specific time for them to draft mentally their alibi. So ningutana ko gusto, unsa asa magod ang na-flat? Ang atubangan nga ligid or ang luyo nga ligid? O ni-respond ang student with hesitation. Mailan jud nimo nga manuplok ang estudyante. Sir, ang na-flat sir is atubangan. Sure ka nga atubangan? According to the student, yes sir. Front nga tower ang na flat. Sige, I went to the next room. Na dito ang student B. So I asked the same question. Asa man na flat? Ang atubangan o ang likod? Kaya ang giingon sa imo ang classmate, ang na-flat is likod. But in reality, ang giingon siyang classmate was atubangan. So unfortunately, ningon ang estudyante nga ikaduha, sir, tinuod na yung istorya sir nga ang na-flat is luyo. Ang na-flat sir is luyo. Tinuod na yung giingon. But in reality, ang istorya sa unang estudyante was atubangan. So this contradicting testimonies, these contradicting statements were enough to prove that these persons were lying because the real reasons why they were absent or why they failed to take the examination was they attend or they went to a fiesta in a particular barangay. So, usang muna dito sa Shaton. Dito sa Shaton, kung mapiesta gani, tungod sa kahalab sa mga tao, ang piesta dire, dili kay mamista ka nga usara ka balay. Kay kung mamista ka nga usara ka balay, dili maayo. Makadaot ko no. Kinala mamista ka, una nga balay, ikaduha nga balay, ikatulo nga balay, kabuto ni mo nagpulo ka balay, hantod mo busdik na yung tiyan o kinaon. Munay culture diri sa Shaton. So, namista guro to sila, pagpamista, mingon dito nga sir, naplatan, yung watong po ng maestro, di ba? Mausahay magod, kanya itong mga estudyante ba, wato ng mga maestra o maestro? So, kaluwis Ginoo, nahagbong sila sa subject and they retake the course. Wato man ang maestro nga, sir, naplatan, ano mo plat o bago kay ligid. Contradicting testimonies. Diba? In criminal investigation, this could be something that you can rely on. Gap in speech patterns may be one reliable clue of deception. We also have regular police methods. Okay? Tulo. Duha di ay. Regular police methods that you can utilize in criminal investigation. Whether a person is telling the truth or is telling a lie. Una, cardinal rules of investigation. O sa man ang cardinal rules of investigation? Balik ko na ito niya. O lang ni katong pamulis ka style. Unsa man ang pamulis ka style? 5 ka buok asawa pero usa ray bana. Usa ka bana, 5 ka buok asawa, 1 husband and 5 wives. So 1 each and 5 W's, the when, where, who, why. Kani nga mga details pwede magamit nimo ni in determining deception. Okay? The cardinal rules of investigation that refers to the W's and the 1H. Tools of investigation. Adri ko mo emphasize og maayo sa tools of investigation. Tulo ni ka klase ha. Ako guni balik ko nani sa inyo nga law enforcement nga subject. Napo ni sa inyo nga ginatawag og ay salamat Ma'am JP nagkadagan-dagan na jud. Napunay sa inyo ang fundamentals of criminal investigation. Na tools of investigation, tulo lang ni, ginatawag ni siya og 3 eyes of, dili eyes nga mata, tulo ka eye ba of investigation. Una, information. Ikaduha, interrogation. Ikadulo, instrumentation. We will review first. Kabalo kong nabungol na mo ani, pero ako rabalikon. Information, these are the facts that are relative to the case on hand. Information can be classified into two. Overt information, palihog kung naamoy ballpen diha o naamoy papel, palihog i-take note. Pero kung bright na kayo kay ibalik-balik na laman ni makabungol biapod, ayon na laman. Pero kung bakuan pa medyo malimtan, pwede na to i-jot down. Ang overt information, these are information obtained openly. Kung you can obtain openly, this means that you do not have permission from the gatekeepers. When I say gatekeepers, I'm referring to those persons who are holding pertinent information that could be useful in a particular case. So open siya. Like, you see the address of the accused in a newspaper. So open man siya. Ang tawag niya, overt information. Or you see the contact details of a person by taking a look on his Facebook account. O sa man open man siya nga information. So ang tawag niya, overt. Overt information. But if the information is obtained by means of clandestine operations like undercover assignments, tailing, shadowing, di ba? Reconnaissance, tanan-tanan, kanina mga information which are obtained in a covert or clandestine operation shall be classified under covert information. Ako balikon, overt, openly. Covert, from the word cover, meaning sekreto, clandestine, or sekreto nga pamaagi, like mag-tailing ka, mag-shadowing ka, mag-undercover ba ka, mag-surveillance ba, any covert information. Ikaduha is interrogation. There is a difference between interrogation and instrumentation. Interrogation, the subjects should usually be the suspects. On the other hand, when we say interview, ang kalagmitang subjects ani sa questioning would be the witnesses. The witnesses. Okay, sa interview would be the witnesses, while interrogation will be the suspect. When we say interrogation, that means the questioning of a subject or questioning to a person who is not cooperating on the line or on the process of questioning. Ang tawag niya, interrogation. Meaning, ang person is reluctant to divulge information. So, reluctant man siya, ang gamiton nga method, interrogation. Or ang tawag sa pag-questioning is interrogation. But if the person is cooperating on the line of questioning, ang tawag ana is interview. Okay? So, dili, kung mayon ang tawag nga, Sir, I will not say something because I have the right to remain silent. Kung tanong, what is your name? Sir, I have the right against self-incrimination. So, pwede ka maka-utilize og interview. Interrogation. Okay? Interrogation. Pwede ka mo gamit og, let's say, for example, ways on how you will interrogate someone. Like, you play Matt and Jeff, you use jolting, you use the sympathetic type of questioning, Depende sa imo ha. Okay, mo nakalay sa interview again, ang imong i-question ani katong mga witnesses who will be cooperating in the line of questioning. The cooperate or divulging information in their own voluntariness. Interrogation, buti pasabot, wala, Jud, di good mo cooperate, reluctant in divulging the information. Kinsa man kalagmitan mga accused. Ikatulo, instrumentation. Instrumentation is the sum total of the application of these sciences in the detection of crime. Unsa man ning sciences that could be applied in the detection of crime? There are so many sciences that we can enumerate. You can use biology, di ba? In legal medicine, we can use biology. Abantay mo, in legal medicine, unsay una nga mo pakita kung patay na ang tawo. Unsay unang mutupa sa lawas? Ang blowfly. Tapos imong gamit itong life cycle sa blowfly in the determination of the hour of death of the person. So biology man na siya dapit. Or pwede ka mo gamit og psychology in criminal investigation. You can also use physics, chemistry, di ba sa chemistry like you do paraffin diphenyllamine test. Puro under man siya sa chemistry. So these are sciences. Mga science ni that could be utilized in the determination or on the detection of crime. So ang tawag niya is instrumentation. Ang criminalistics laman are on the study of the criminal things. When I say criminal things, these are things that are used, instruments or equipment that are used in the commission of the crime. While instrumentation, mga sciences mangyud ni sila nga ginagamit sa pagdetect sa krimen. So I hope nasabtan na to ang nakalahi sa covert o overt information, ang nakalahi sa interrogation o interview, o ang nakalahi sa instrumentation o kaning ginatawag nato og criminalistics. Before I will proceed with the next topic, let us go first with the question and answer portion. If you have questions that you want to ask, this is now the right time to say something. Sige, kung naipangutana, palihog, panahon na para nga mangutana mo sa inyo ang ikalibugan. Sige. Salamat sa Ginoo nga ubay-ubay na ta. Piano ni kabuok. Nay nakabuok ang ni-attend kaluoy Ginoo sa review. Kaya naka-realize ang uban nga, usik po kayo ning gabayad daw niya dito mo attend. May nalaman. Diba? Sige, time to ask questions. Somebody? I believe Catalanians are persons with inquisitive minds. O mga inquisitive minds, pwede na itong magamit. Try to ask questions. Somebody? Kadit Ilona, Kadit Marinho, Kadit Velez, Kadit Arquiliano, Kadit Garganera, Kadit Ramirez, Esparcia, and Lamina. Somebody? Kadit Ilona, na by questions?
None, sir. None so far.
How about Cadet Ariel Marinho? Ano sa Ariel or wala pa? Wala pa sa Ariel. Cadet Velez. Wala. How about Cadet Arquiliano?
Wala rin, sir.
Garganera. Tawagon ta mo ka naman naman kay ako lang tao kung nakatulog ba mo or naminaw ba mo sa discussion. Cadet Garganera? Nawala na. Cadet Ramirez?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Observe ako, sir.
Na-observe pa ka. How about you, Cadet Esparcia?
No so far, sir.
How about you, Cadet Lamina?
Wala rin, sir.
So kung intelligence information, unsa man siya, covert or overt? O, pangutanan ako, Esparcia. Ito ba? Kung intelligence information, unsa man, covert or overt information? Ang classification. What is your answer?
Sir?
If I have intelligence information I obtained from a reliable source, that information shall be classified as what? Covert or overt? What is your answer?
Covert, sir.
Anong covert? Again, Sparsha, anong covert gani?
Liable siya sa kwan, sir. Investigation of kwan.
Anong covert information ang intelligence info? Kay ngano Sparsha gani?
Nabilong man siya sa kwan, sir. Intelligence, sir.
Kaya nabilong man siya sa intelligence. How about you, Cadet Lamena? Ngano gani nga ang intelligence information shall be classified as covert kay
Secretly man siya nga kuan mo sa imong informant, sir.
Oh, very good. Kuan man sinikreto man nga pamaagi. Di man siya open nga salan information nga nakuha openly. Kung sa ganay nakalahi sa polygraph o polygraphy, we have how about you, Cadet? O si Cadet Elona, o sa ganay nakalahi ani? Polygraphy o polygraph?
Sa polygraphy, sir, kay scientific detection of deception, sir, while polygraph is instrument used to detection of deception, sir.
Okay, ang polygraphy is the science while polygraph is the instrument or the machine in the detection of deception. So kung wala na pangutangan, let's proceed. Now let us go now to the proper discussion relative to polygraphy. Wala pa dahil, napaday lait. Napaday hypnotism. These are still part of the preliminaries. Hypnotism. Hypnosis is a fantastic condition that may be physically induced by another person, characterized by the loss of consciousness and a greater responsiveness to the suggestions of the hypnotist. The person who first utilized hypnotism was Mesmer. M-A-S-M-E-R. Si Mesmer was the person who introduced hypnotism. Okay? I-hypnotize ang tao. Diba? I-hypnotize ang tao. And when the person is already hypnotized, the investigator will ask questions, and since the person is already hypnotized, he will utter truthful statements. The next one is word association test by Francis Galton, wherein there is a long list of selected stimulus words or objects with other picture interspersed with other relevant words, objects or pictures with the instruction to respond with the very first word that come to the subject's mind. This test was developed by Francis Galton. So, na mga words, na mga objects nga ipakita sa tao. Tapos, there's a specific question that will be asked by the investigator. Tapos, ang gipa-respond sa accused will be the first word or the first object that comes to mind. Tapos, ang objects or ang words na nag-gather sa investigator will have to be interconnect or try to connect from one word or from one object to another and try to create a scenario. That is one of the contributions of Francis Galton. Next is, nigawas yun sa board exam. Ang name sa drug that is used in the truth serum is hyoscine hydrobromide. Take note ha, mga graduating Catalinans. Ang pangalan sa droga is not methamphetamine hydrochloride. Dili siya buha. Ang pangalan sa droga, ayaw dyan ninyo nagkalimte mo, take mo sa board exam, kaya basig gawas na ini. Ang tawag sa drug nga gi-utilize in the truth serum is the hyoscine hydrobromide. Okay? In repetitive doses until a state of delirium is brought on. So, balik-balik na siya og inject to a person. The truth serum was introduced by Dr. Edward Mandelhaus. Kaya kalimte, si Mandelhaus or Dr. Edward Mandelhaus was a physician and a diplomat who introduced the so-called truth serum. Unsa ang truth serum? nagamit ni siya og drug sa ginatawag nga hyoscine hydrobromide. Ayaw kalimti, hyoscine hydrobromide. Hyoscine hydrobromide. Hyoscine hydrobromide ang droga nga gigamit sa truth serum. Who was the person who introduced the truth serum? Dr. Edward Mandelhaus. Edward Mandelhaus. Okay? Charo dili masabtan. Alright. Now let us go now to the proper discussion. Ang polygraph machine or ang polygraph instrument consists of 4 major parts. I believe there is a polygraph machine right now in Cosca. Purag na mo'y polygraph machine. Pero I don't know if you have the experience of attaching the major parts to the body of the person. In Foundation University, we have a polygraph machine. I tried to use it years ago, like somewhat like 2015 and 2016. And then, with the current situation right now, there was a short circuit when I plugged it in. I think that was last 2018. And, you know, the responses or the tracings of the pens of the polygraph machine are no longer reliable. Kaya aso-aso magod to. Pero, we still have the complete, you know, the complete parts. The 4 major parts of the polygraph machine. And we do simulation. We do simulations. I do not know kung naka-experience pa mo aning i-simulate nga, gi-attach ning mga major parts. So now lang tayo, tulo ka major parts nga gi-attach, usa ka major part nga dili gi-attach sa lawas sa tawo. I repeat, 3 major parts that will be attached to the body of the accused or to the body of the subject. 1 major part nga ikaupat nga dili i-attach, walay labot sa attachment ha. Unsang man nga mga major parts? Cardiopulmonograph. Ikaduha nga gi-attach, the pneumograph. Ikatulo nga gi-attach, galvanograph. Ang kaupat nga major part, kanang ginatawag og chemograph, wala na siya naka-attach sa laawas sa tao, kundi naka-attach lang na sa machine. Okay? Atong isgutan kung sa ilang function later on. But we will go first to the development per major part of the polygraph machine. We will start with cardiopulmonograph. Palihog basa, Cadet, Sparsha. Cadet? Hello?
Sir.
Sige, Cadet, basa. Sige, basa na, Cadet. Angelo Moso. Sige, you start.
Angelo Musso is studied for and its influence on the heart. He developed the physiomanometer and scientific which was designed to measure the flow of blood while a person lay on his back in a prone position.
Oh, basag balik. Bilis. Oh, bilis na po. Basa, bilis. Asa naman tos bilis? Nawala naman. Oh, bilis. Cadet. Nawala na po si bilis, oh. Wala. Oh, Ramirez. Oh, basa, Rams. Cadet Ramirez.
Yes, sir.
Sige.
Development of cardiopulmonograph. Angelo Mosso. He studied fear and its influence of the heart. He developed the pneumanometer and scientific cradle, which was designed to measure the flow of blood while a person lay on his back in a prone position.
Okay, ang unang person in the development is cardiopulmonograph rather. The first major part of polygraph was Angelo Mosso. So Angelo Mosso was the person who studied fear in its influence on the heart, or the correlation between nervousness or the correlation between fear and the function of the heart. So sa may relationship anong Unsa man kana kahadlok o kana imo kasing-kasing na balay relasyon? Bata nang mahadlok kang magugma, nanay relasyon sa imo kasing-kasing. Nanay relasyon sa imo kasing-kasing. Kung ang tao po mamakak, labo na yung relasyon siya kasing-kasing. Kaya nga naman, kung ang tao dahil mamakak, mahadlok man dahil na. Diba? Mahadlok yun na ba? Kanang mamakak ka sa imong din, sus makalilisang. Mahadlok ka, uy. Samutag imong din, kahadlok ka jud o kanang terror kayo, terrorism ba, terrorist? Mahadlok jud ka. Diba? Kung manuplo ka, so, may tabo kung mahadlok ka, ang imuang pounding of the heart would be different. Ang pagpitik sa imong kasing-kasing lahi, kayo, Choy. Paspas kayo, kuyawan ka. Pero ako rin yung tanang kuyawan, nang what? Posible na kang kuyawan, kay baguanay mo nakita. Pero kalagmitan, Jude, usually, those persons will tell a lie, especially if that type of lie is grave. Grave, Jude ba? Ano kung seryoso good nga krimen, seryoso good nga lie, naagi possibility nga mo pound ug maayo ang imong heart. So sa Angelo mo sa iyang gikaw ng correlation. Then ang nakatsadian ni kani develop siya ginatawag sphygmomanometer. That will measure the flow of the blood while a person lay on his back in a prone position, meaning unsa may flow, unsa may dagan sa blood kung ang tao na makak, unsa may dagan sa tao nga sa blood, unsa may dagan sa blood kung ang tao gatugan og tinuod. Because if the person is telling the truth, the flow of blood will be normal. So kung normal ang flow sa blood, buti pa sabot, normal po ang pumping of the heart. But if the person will tell a lie, of course, there is fear, there is an abnormal flow of the blood, and it could cause, a rampant, pounding of the heart of the person. So ang nakadevelop ani is si Angelo Moso, ang sphygmomanometer. Ang inyong nga papa ninyo sa crime, ang inyong amahan sa criminology, na po siya contribution. O unsa man po ning contribution ni Cesar Lambroso? Kabalo ba mo nga si Cesar Lambroso, naingon siya nga, muna kanin tawhana, the most criticized person in the history of criminology. Ano man? Ningon magud siya nga, I, as the father of criminology, I believe and I would like to argue that those persons who are ugly are criminals. Diba? Kinsa man nga prinsipyo o sa atuan ng amahan sa criminology. Walay lain kundi si Dr. Cesar Lambroso. Napo siya contribution sa unsalani sa polygraphy. Ayang contribution was the first person, take note the first person who employed who measures the changes in the pulse and blood pressure with the suspect were asked about their involvement in a certain case. He was accorded as the first person who first utilized an instrument in the detection of lies. Si Dr. Cesar Lambroso. Now, take note guys, by the way, mo shift tag gamay sa topic. Si Dr. Cesar Lambroso is known as the father of modern criminology. Pero mangutana ko ninyo, unsa may label ni Dr. ni Cesar Vicaria? Diba? Kinsa may una, si Cesar Vicaria or si Cesar Lambroso? Unsa imong answer? Ilona.
Cesar Vicaria, sir.
Oh, Cesar Vicaria. So kinsa mo father of criminology? Si Vicaria or si Lambroso? Daghan biyang kadete ani nga galibog ani.
Modern man si Cesar Lambroso, sir. Dahil yung traditional si Cesar Vicaria, sir.
Ang kay Cesar Vicaria is on classical criminology. So ginatawag siya og father of classical criminology. Pero between Cesar Lambroso and Dr. Cesar Vicaria, ngano mang ginatawag? Kabalo mo mo say rason? Nganong modern man si Lambroso? Dili man si Vicaria? Nga kumbot naon dako man pong contribution si Vicaria? Unsa may rason nganong modern criminology magod si Lambroso? Unsa may rason, Ilona? Ano ginatawag man siya father of modern criminology? Cadet? What do you think is the reason behind why Cesar Lambroso is the father of modern criminology and Vicaria traditional or classical. What do you think is the reason?
Dako sa gambag, sir.
Mas dako magugambag ani pud sa ikuan. Kabalo ba mo nga tungod ni Cesar Vicaria nawala ang death penalty? Mas dako ambag si Cesar Vicaria. Pero sa mga rason. Ikaw Ramirez, unsa may imong posible nga tubag? Ano ginatawag mo siya father of criminology? Basta mo kawas sa intro to crime ba? Cadet Ramirez, what do you think? Cadet. Hello. The reason why Dr. Cesar Lombroso is considered as the father of modern criminology and not classical, simply because out of the two, between Cesar Lombroso and Cesar Vicaria, it was Lombroso who first utilized a scientific method in the detection of crime. The very first person, pinakauna nga tawo, who utilized scientific methods, scientific, dili ingo tagna-tagna lang, si Cesar Lombroso, dili si Vicaria. Ang kay Vicaria was on crimes and punishment nga libro. Nga he was lambasting the church, he was lambasting the community, he was lambasting the government because of the death penalty, because according to him, there has to be an equilibrium between crime and punishment. Equilibrium. Buti pasabot, kinahanglan nga mag-abot ba? Mag-abot. Unsay hitason sa punishment, mo po na hitason dapat sa krimen. Kay kung ang tawo, igo rang nakalimot og pay respect to an elder person, tapos imo siya gipatay, wala nagka-equal. So dapat equal. Kung moro yung iha nga crime, nga kalimot na siya og ingon nga mayong gabi law, mayong gabi lola. Mura yung krimen, dapat ang iya nga punishment katura pong musigo sa iya nga krimen. Di kay patyo nimo. Umro na wala ang death penalty. Usa na sa mga proposition. Pero again, the first person who utilize scientific, ano ba mo gamit ka og scientific research principles? You utilize scientific research principles. Unsa may scientific principle ni Cesar Lombroso kay kuan man ni siya, doktor man ni. Iyang nakita nga pag-examine niya sa unsala ni sa skull sa usa ka kriminal, nakita niya nga ang skull is contained with atavistic features. Unsay mo atavistic features? Katong kinaraan nga mga tao, katong mga Homo sapiens, Homo habilis. So ni-declare siya nga katong tao nga naay physical anomalies, mga criminal to. O posible nga mahimo nga criminal. Pero kalatawan na iyang contribution, pero siya may pinakauna nga ni use of scientific methods in the detection of crime. So therefore, considered siya karon or held today as the father of modern criminology. I would like to repeat my argument. The very first person who utilized scientific methods in the detection of crime was no other than Dr. Cesar Lombroso. So therefore, it should be Cesar Lombroso who should be considered as the father of modern criminology, not Cesar Vicaria. Okay? Kinsa may dean of modern criminology, Ilona?
Edward Sutherland, sir.
Very good. Si Sutherland ang ginatawag nga dean of modern criminology. Kaysa una magong panahon, nangutana ko sa taga Norso ba? Kinsa may dean of modern criminology? Kabalo mo ko sila itubag. Ilan tubag? Si Juan Sir, si Dr. Rene Sepe. Gilang manong din sa krimo ilang giistorya. Si Sutherland. Unsa may contribution ni Sutherland? He was the person who argued that criminology should not be used as a science. Anyway, on our part in polygraphy, kung naay father sa criminology, naay father sa polygraphy, napag father sa law enforcement, napag father sa intelligence, napag father sa mga fingerprint, pastilan, napag ginatawag og grandfather sa fingerprint. Ang grandfather sa fingerprint si Malfigi. Pastilan daghan ng father ni. O, ang father sa polygraphy kanis Marston. Kaya contribution was on the, not just on the sphygmomanometer, which was first developed by Mosso, but also he made researches to the on its use in the detection of lies. By the way, guys, kaloy sa Ginoo gikas 2010 na 2021 na laman, wala jud ko kita sa question sa board exam nga guys good og father. Pero ako ningon nga ayaw memorize ninyo. Kamo na bahala. Mas mayo na nakabaluta nga wala ni gawas kasi ni gawas ni wala nakabalo. Oh, ang father of modern polygraphy, si William Moulton Marston. Next, pagkahuman ni William ni Marston, here comes John Larson. Si John Larson developed in apparatus in the detection of lies. Ang iyang apparatus was on the measurement of the blood pressure, the pulse rate, and the respiration. Kanilang blood pressure, pulse rate, and respiration. Pero, ang instrument ni John Larson, wala maayo na develop, wala na yun na enhance. Punang gisuhid-suhid ni killer. Ang gingon ni killer, din siya nga, uy, mayo matong instrument ni Larson. May siguro og ako atong i-adapt, akong suheron to, tapos ako rang i-enhance. Iyang gi-enhance ang aparatus ni Larson. Iyang gisuhid-suhid, tapos iyang gi-improve. Cheater man yung tawhana. So iyang gi-suhid. Pero iyang gi-improve. Wala nakatsada niya. Di kay manuhid raw niya. Dili improve. Para pagula nang nangutana ko sa dispute resolution nga subject ba. What is an award? Unsay reply sa estudyante, an award is the recognition of an achievement. Ano sa bagod na himong recognition ng award? Ang award sa criminology mo man nagkatong agreement of the two parties kung nagka-dispute sila. Sinuhid ra ba sa Google? So, ang nakatsada ni killer, although, isuhid ang polygraph ni Larson, pero, mag-improve. Eh, kung manuhid ka, wala mo gi-paraphrase, wala mo dungagi, wala ayo. Gi-improve ni Larson. Tapos, paglantaw niya, nga kulang kayo ang parts sa polygraph ni Larson, iya kining gipunan o ginatawag og chemograph. Okay? So, meaning, the person who developed chemograph was no other than killer. Okay? Kung sabi ni chemograph, siya mo tig-pull sa chart paper. I will elaborate on the function of polygraph later on. Next, on the development of pneumograph, we have Vittorio Binosi. He detected deception with a pneumograph, an instrument that graphically measures inhalation and exhalation. So, Binosi ang pinakaunang contributor. Next was Harold Burt, who determined respiratory changes that were indications of deception. He found out that changes in systolic blood pressure were of greater value in determining deception than changes in respiration. So, ang naka-difference Binosi was purely on the respiration of the individual and its correlation to deception. While Harold Burt, he claimed, according to his argument, nga mas maayo, mas significant ang blood pressure in correlation to deception rather than respiration correlating it to deception. So, what ipasabot, he was trying to emphasize that you give more weight on the correlation between blood pressure and deception rather than giving weight on respiration correlating to deception. Because in reality, you can and you will control your respiration. You can control your respiration, but you can never control your blood pressures. I think you will agree with me. Blood pressures cannot be controlled, but respiration cannot. Respirations can be controlled rather. Pwede man makapugong kasi mong gininhawa. Pwede mong paspaso mong gininhawa. Pero ang blood pressure, whether you like it or not, di na mo makontrol. Sunod, Galvanograph, we have the person behind GSR. In forensic ballistics, GSR stands for gunshot residue. Pero sa polygraph, GSR stands for galvanic skin reflex or the galvanometer or simply the galvanograph which was developed by Galvani. Take note of the word ohms. ohms is the lowest current that is used or that is utilized in galvanograph, meaning the skin of the person will be subjected to a smallest electricity, and we call it as ohms. Okay? So, i-measure ang skin resistance sa electricity by means of galvanograph. On the other hand, the psychogalvanic reflex was developed by no other than Veragut. As to the questioning technique, I think these are already familiar to you. Si Killer, si Leonard Killer ha, unsa ganito yung contribution ni Leonard Killer? Iyang gisuhid ang aparatos ni Larson, iyang gi-improve, iyang gidungagan og what we call as chemograph. Okay, ang aparatos. Gawas ana, he developed number 1, tulo ni kabuk ha. He developed number 1, relevant and irrelevant technique. We will discuss relevant and irrelevant technique on the later slides. Ikaduha, card number test or card test. Ikatulo, peak of tension test. Tulo lang na kabuk. We will be discussing these 3 on the later topics. I repeat, tulo lang kabuk mga choyek ang gi-develop ni Leonard Killer. Una, relevant, irrelevant technique. Kadua, card number test. Katulo, peak of tension test. Other than that, siya mo ga-improve sa Larson's polygraphy, iya ginuwagan og chemograph, dahil iyang gipangalan sa iya nga ang polygraphy na tawag niya og killer polygraph. I hope klaro na. Sunod, in the case of John Reed, duha ang iya nga na-develop na type of questions. Una, control questions. Reviewed or control questions, or simply control questions. We'll be discussing control questions later. Ikaduha, Gelt complex test. We will also be discussing this one on the later topics. Duha ang iyang contribution on the type of questioning. Again, control questions, Gelt complex test. Ikatulo, Clive Baxter. Ang iyang contribution was only on Baxter zone comparison test. Other pioneers in the field of deception detection, we have Galton, again, word association test, Allen Bell on, guys, basig magawas ni sa board exam, ang psychological stress evaluator, PSA. PSA was introduced by Allen Bell. Okay, unsa man PSA? Ang PSA, there is a simulator, there is an instrument, we call it a psychological stress evaluator that will record the voice, the response, the audio response of the individual. And the audio response will have to be interpreted basing on the trembling or the natural curve of the voice. So kung trembling, kabante ka nang makuyawan ka, magkurog ka, kung mag-tremble ang iyang voice, bot ipasabot, the person is lying. Pero kung straight, normal ang iyang trend sa voice niya during the PSA, that person shall be considered as not guilty or innocent of the accusation. Of course, again, mesmer, ang iya is hypnotism. Ayaw kalimtin ninyo ng mga tawa, ha? Nabay questions before we proceed? Wala like questions. So, adreta, masunod ta. Types of lies. Mga nagkaraiya nga mga pamakak. Tapos, para masabtanan nyo nagmaayo, pwede nga atong i-view ang atong kaugalingon based on our experiences in telling a lie. By the way, guys, between male and female, according to science, according to scientific researches, tuhuin ninyo ni scientific research, dapat inyo ni i-confirm sa google.com, ang kusog mamakak sa lalaki o sa babaye walay lain kundi ang lalaki. Take note, ha? Because according to research, male has an average of lies comparable to 2. Ang babaye will only lie once a day. Ang lalaki will lie twice a day. So kung ikaw may criminal investigator, duha ka book witnesses, male and female, unsa may implication ani, dapat mas motuo ka sa babaye kay nga naman ang mangingilad walay lain kundi ang lalaki. Mangilad japon ang babaye pero kalamitan mga lalaki. Muna implication sa criminal investigation. So kung imong suspect, imong witnesses, babae o lalaki, amingon ka dito nga, according to scientific research, men are liar compared to women. So mas mo rely ka sa statement sa babae. Rely ka sa statement sa babae. Kung ang pag-criminal investigation nimo puro ang usa puro laki, pero ang usa tambok, ang usa niwang, amingon po ka dito nga, according to the study of somatotyping by Sigmund Freud, ang endomorph nga tambok is prone to commit deception. Subot ipasabot kay ang mga tambok prone to commit deception man, ang tambok is liar compared to the slim individuals. Paabot sa criminal investigation, mas tuuan nimo ang niwang na niistorya kaysa tambok. Kaya ang tambok niya ay, according to Sigmund Freud, mga tao nga mga marukoy, dili mutugan og tinuod. Una nga lie, direct denial. Ikaw, wala ko gabuhat ana. Dili ako mo'y gapusil. Dili ako mo'y gasumbang. Wala po ko nagkudigo, ma'am. Wala po ko nanuhin, ma'am. Bisag nakita na ko na. Wala po ko nag-cheat. Wala po ko nag-plagiarize. O mga direct denial ni. Diba? Direct denial. Pasa mo yun dito nga, I did not do it. O direct denial. Pero, kung lie of omission, ang lie of omission is not purely lie. Ang lie of omission means half truth, half lie. Nganong half truth? Simply because in lie of omission, you tell the truth, but what happens is, you omit something from the truth. Okay? Wala nimo gitugan tanan. Imo rang gitugan ang mga kuan nga details ba, mga ginagmay nga details. Like yung kayto absent po ko, sir, kay naadto mo ko sa Dumaguete. Pero wala ka na to, nga naadto ka sa Dumaguete, kay ka-video kira dahil mo sa Tiangge, gaino mo sa imo ang mga barkada. O lie of omission. Ang tawag. Okay? Sunod. Lie of fabrication. This is the most difficult type of lie. Why? Simply because in fabrication, when you say fabricate, you tend to invent stories. Invent something to hide the truth. Pangutana, nganong karon pa man ka sa review session, nganong wala man ka ganina, nganong late man ka? Ay ma'am, kuan manggod ko ma'am, working student manggod ko ma'am nya. Ako ang mama ma'am, ako ara gisaligan. Wala gyud mi ma'am, apike jud kayo ma'am nya. Gikan pa taon ko nangumpra og isda ma'am nya. Pagabot nako alauna nakapirma mo pa jud pagsulod nako. Pero ang reality di ay, ga-email ra dayag kagwang. Bali dayang email. Nya kay disturbo man kayo ni review. Unya ra kang review ka. As email sa ko. Lie of fabrication di ay. Diba? Mga payon yun. Nganong late man ka? Nga nisubmit sa imong output. Kaan magod sir? Wajud signal sa mo sir. Wajud ko ikapalit nga load. Madahan. Wajud. Bisa katong piso wifi na lamang nga imo ang 10 pesos tulo ka oras madahag di jud kalilisang jud guys sa fabrication muni common kay sa criminology fabricate ba sunod okay ra tong lie of omission kay you tell the truth but you just omit some details kani fabrication goal kay gaban jud nimo istorya ba sunod lie of minimization. You minimize something. You downplay the implication of an action. Mayroon kayo ito nga, wala biyan ako tutuyo ma'am, pero natingala ko nga, naigo man siya sa akong siko. Wala gyud tuyo nga, iwo magugisiko. Or, ma'am, pagdula na og basket, ma'am, nausa siguro to nga, basig, wala ko kabantay nga, naigo na ko iyang nawong, pero in reality, imo dahil gisumbag. You downplay the implication of the action. So unsay tawag ana? Lie of minimization. Gakodigo ka, may kadto nga anira pong number 1 ma mo ni gawas sa kodigo, mura po akong gikapi. And reality gikapi din mo kas number 1 hantod sa last portion. Minimization dai siya. Kaniyo, exaggeration. This is a type of lie by the bulala persons in the whole world. Kato mga bulala nga ako, sige, ako mo'y mayo, ako mo'y pinaka-bright, ako mo'y pinaka-gwapo, I am the most handsome guy in the community. Every girl in the community, every chicks in the community belongs to me. O ka na mo exaggerate baka, nga, ako anayo, nga, Dean's List awardee ko, flanker dahil sa exam. Dito ito, cum laude ko nag-graduate, a lie of exaggeration. Pasubraan ba? Sunod, kaniyo, benign lie, which is very common. Ang benign lie, at lying term is what we call as white lie. O sabihin white lie? A white lie is not a bad lie. In my own opinion only. My own opinion, white lie is not a bad lie. Because this is just a lie that will establish relationship with, harmonious relationship with other person. Panalitan, mingon dito imong kwan, imong uyab. O, ilona. Mingon imong uyab, ilona nga, nakapalit siya bago nga sanina, tapos magsanina siya tubang sa imuha. Na mingon siya nga, do I look good on my dress? Do I look good on my newly bought dress? Kung sa'yo mo response, ko nga, you look beautiful. You look nice on the newly bought dress. But in reality, dili, daay. Sa mga, nga namang maglay ka to maintain the relationship. Diba? Imong uyab, baho og ilok, imong mag-inon nga baho kay kag ilok. Dili ka mingon mulay kami kato humot jud kayo ka Brad perti jong humutag yud ka, di ba? Mayon karon lami jud kayo ka, pero in reality pastila nura na kag mabungog ana yang baho samotang guwapa kayo nga bayi, di ba? Guwapa kayo nga bayi, pag kiss nimo baho day baba, pero di jud ka magsaba, di ka magsaba nga baho day og baba nga naman. You have to maintain the relationship. So, sa humutra bi. Mira ka, humutra kayo ka. Nga naman, you have to maintain the relationship. Kaya kung ka nga, pag kumanin mo kiss imong yab, namin kayo ito, perti po kang bahuag baba, ang may tabo, bulagan ka dayon. So, siya, humutra jud. Diba? Humutra jud kayo. Diba, Karets? O white lie dahil na. Liar ka kung mag-white lie ka, pero okay ra. Because you maintain the relationship. O kani, propaganda. This is a type of lie that is usually utilized by the New People's Army. Mayroon dito ang New People's Army nga. Papo siguro member NPA and virtual, no? Mayroon dito ang NPA nga. The laws are made for the rich. The laws are made for the rich, crafted for the rich, and not for the poor. They joined our armed struggle. Red lie. Red lie. Diba? Or malicious lie. Kani mo problema. Problema dyan ta. Okay rag mag-red lie mo, mag-benign lie mo, mag-exaggerate mo, mag-lie of minimization, omission, direct lie. Ayaw lang ng malicious lie mga choy. Kung malicious lie na gani, this involves legalities. Okay? Like when you write something in an affidavit, and that something is not the truth, perjury comes in. When you imitate the signature of your dean or your instructors to claim something, that is a malicious lie. That could be forgery. Problema kayo ang malicious lie sa tanang types of lie. Before ta mo proceed, question and answer portions ata. Sige, pangutana. I-turn on po na yung camera. By the way, guys, please excuse my background. I traveled from Shaton to Dumaguete just to get a good signal. Kung ako drill karon sa Talay, para lang yun magka-signal in taon. Maluoy, so paningog jud mo. Sige, tingog na. I-on inyong camera. Para makita ko nga si Cesar Labroso sayop. Sayop ko lang kayo si Cesar Labroso. Matay ka. Pinuang mo na ka si Cesar Labroso, di ba? Sa'yo nakainom ka dito ha. Ang tawo nga mao, kriminal. Sus, makalilisang. Kanya pag ato mga to sa salamin mo, may kanito nga, uy, ang characteristic ni Cesar Lambroso criminal, yung siya nga, curly hair, black complexion. Oh, black complexion ha? Black complexion, curly hair, narrow backbone, flat jaw. Ano na flat jaw? Ano bang may pagka-bakion nga style ba ang no? Diba? Unya, napag i-blogan po ko niya, flat nose. Sus, makalilisang. Paglantaw ni mo dito sa espiyo, uy, maumaw man jud tong giingon ni Cesar Lambroso, criminal siguro ko ay. Bale sa binuan jud kayo. Pero, father of modern criminology. Munang the most funny courses, the most funny course. Sometimes we consider ourselves as inferior among others. No other than criminology. Masaya nitong father po criminology, kalatawan. Sige, pangutanan na. Pangutanan na, Kanit Ilona, Ariel, Marino, Viles, Arquiliano, Garganera, Ramirez, Esparcia, Lamena. Time to shine. Kanit Ramirez. Pangutana. Wala lang po. How about others?
Okay lang, sir. Okay lang, sir.
How about Kanit Ilona, Viles? Ano kung kanbe kay basig na
None, sir, none.
Lara, sir.
Dire guys, mangutana jud ko ninyo ha kay ang tinud ani gibaran ba ang tawon po ko nya. Masira po sinapat ani. Makatawa mo po lamang ko aning, ni gamay ra bata. Kung kana jud ko ninyo na ba may pangutana or wala ba kay para at least magkasinabtan na ita kay kung masikog yayo din niya pagkaimla-imla, uy. Nakatulog na di ay. Sa una sa Shaton, kung ingunaron nga orasa, na imaw sahib sa pag-unsa kakajali sa discussion, panahon nga matulog ang estudyante. So, ang among buhato na kung matulog ang estudyante, pakatulogon na muna, dahil mo kahinahinera, may kawala. Hantod siya na lang usa nga tulog sa classroom. Nalagan mi. Nahuman, pag mata niya, kuhaan, siya na lang usa, pagkadupas-dupas ng tao, dahil pabot sa opisina, sir, sorry sir. Amo pa-push upon para makuan. Para mausalali. Para mapungawan ba? Pero lahi ang Koska. Lahi, malingaw Koska, oy. When I was there in Koska, sus, makalilisang for 3 years. For 3 years. Kay part-time ko na, sunod na regular ko in Koska. Dinijud tulgon ang taga-Koska. Bisan pa na, you will have your lecture at 9 o'clock in the evening, 10 o'clock in the evening, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 10 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning. Koska, Catalinas, you will never sleep during your lecture. Nga naman, ang mata na ba, buka kayo. Buka kayo, Brad. Gabuka, Brad. Sus ko, makalilisan. Matingala ka nga, seryoso kayo ang discussion, pero magkatawa. Buka kayo ang kuwan ba, mata ba? Tapos makalilisan dyan, lipay dyan kayo ko ato ba, tayo Koska ba? Kumuni, mga estudyante, di dyan matulog. Pero matingala po ka mo sa ano po ni bata nga, seryoso na estudyante discussion, katawa raman. Siya raman po doon kasulot ng mata. Kung kuan, alive dyan mo na, mayo. Magkuan ba? Mamina dyan ba? Mayo. Diba? Nakabili ba na Koskos ka dyan? Taas na kong bilib. Ang nakatsada po na Koska kay inquisitive minds. Diba? Mangutana ba? Anyway, sige, wala na yung pangutana. Diri na ta sa function sa major parts. Diba? Okay na to ha. Denial. Magawas na sa board exam ha. Direct denial. Type lie of omission. Lie of omission, gi-omit. Lie of minimization, gi-panuban niya ang implication. Fabrication, gagama-gama. White lie, ani istorya pamakak para lang yun ma-establish ang relationship. Red light, muli ka itong mga propaganda. Malicious lie, mo ni kato mga ga-involve og legalities. Nga maka-obstruct og justice. So karon adrita sa unsa lani? Functions sa polygraph. So unsa man yung polygraph? What does polygraph records? Sige. Kindly read Cadet Villes. Cadet?
Yes, sir.
Sige, basahan na po. Ikaw na po ibasa, Cadet.
What does the polygraph records? Changes in the blood pressure, pulse rate, galvanic skin reflex. It does not matter if the subject is nervous during the testing process because that is to be expected. A person intending to be deceptive to a particular question will activate his sympathetic nervous system or SNS as a self-defense mechanism when the question is asked on the test.
Okay. Unsa may gi-record sa polygraph? Tulo lang ha. Tulo lang gyud. Tulo lang. Sa pneumograph, ang iyang gi-record is the respiration. Aba the respiration? Wala man ni oy. Ay na lang ha para masabtan. Tulo lang ang iyang gi-record. Tulo lang kaset akong ganang i-emphasize. Una, sa pneumograph, iyang gi-record ang respiration. Inhalation o exhalation respiration. Ang cardiosphemograph, iyang gi-record ang blood pressure o ang pulse rate. Ang galvanograph, iyang gi-record ang galvanic skin reflex. Akong usbon. Naalay tulo ka sets nga iyang gi-record. Sa pneumograph, iyang gi-record ang respiration. Sa respiration, ang pag-inhale o ang pag-exhale. Sa cardiosphemograph, iyang gi-record ang blood pressure o ang pulse rate. Ang galvanograph, iyang gi-record ang galvanic skin reflex. Take note, it does not matter if the subject is nervous during the testing process because that is to be expected. Question, sir. Karon, kay ang nervousness can be correlated to deception man. Unsa man day may tabuan ni sir? Normally, makuyawan man gud na bisag dili siya mo ga-commit sa crime. Di ba? Samot mabaguhan ka sa polygraph examination. Manghinambog dayon ra bagod si Tolfo. Mingon dayon si Tolfo nga kung kamo mo atras mo sa polygraph examination, then therefore you shall be considered as guilty. Diba? Because Tolfo is life. Kita mga criminologists nakabalita nga sa iyang istorya. Diba? So makuyawan biya ka. Pero niingon nga it does not matter whether a person is nervous or not during the process. Why? Because of the irrelevant technique. The norms which will be the basis of the normal tracing shall be within the irrelevant question. Ako na gi-discuss og maayo ron nganong okay lang, okay? Nganong okay lang gyud nga kuyawan ka. Atong diskussan ang relevant ug irrelevant later. Next, muna ato ang bantayan ha, response meaning unsa iya nga itubag activity sa organism as an effect of a simulation. Sunod, specific response is any deviation from the normal tracing of a subject. O sa mga deviation. Kung mauni normal nimo tapos ni deviate, meaning nagka-flat ang imo nga curve sa tracing, matawag siya og specific response. Normal response katong pag-answer niya sa irrelevant questions. Di ako mo concentrate. Buot na ipasabot, una, okay ra di ay nga bisag ikuyawan ka kay simply because na may ginatawag og irrelevant question. Ang tracing sa imo nga irrelevant question bisag ikuyawan ka will be considered as the normal response. Okay? I hope I am clear. I repeat. Bisan pag ikuyawan ka, ang imuhang response sa irrelevant question shall be considered as a normal response. ang imong response sa relevant questions will be compared to the response of the irrelevant questions. Why? Ang comparison will be the basis in the determination of lying. So to simply say in Cebuano, unsa may example og irrelevant question, nakabalo na mo ani, mangutana. Is it true that you live in Maladpad, Hiligaon, Siaton, Negros Oriental? Tapos dito kagapuyo. Of course, ping kayo nga yes. So kanang a question, ang imong tracing ana normal na. Mangutana, did you take a bath? Ma-activate ba imong SNS, imong sympathetic nervous system? Dili. Wa makakuyaw eh. Or di man mo kuan ang imong nervousness, pero ang imong nervousness on the minimal level lang. Kaya ano ba? Question, did you take a bath? Did you take a bath today? Did you eat your breakfast? Mga irrelevant question man eh. Kaya di man appeal sa krimen. Is it true that your name is Juan de la Cruz? O so normal response, yeah. So pag ingon nga, irrelevant question, did you take a bath? Yes. Did you is it true that you live in Maladpad, Ligaon, Siaton, Negros Oriental? Yes. O di normal response. Tapos ang sunod nga pangutana, is it did you steal the money of Maria amounting to 5,000 pesos in January 10, 2021? O kana, relevant question na. So kung gikuyawan siya atong sa irrelevant, gikuyawan siya sa irrelevant questions, the more pagod siya gikuyawan atong sa relevant question katong pagpangutan nga did you steal the money, buot ipasabot kay ni change man ang iyang response o ni change man ang iyang nga tracing from minimal nervousness into maximal nga nervousness, buot ipasabot kay ni deviate man, posibleng ang tao is lying. Okay? Next, ang ga-examine shall be considered as the polygraph examiner. Ang tao nga gi-examine shall be considered as the subject. Ang tracing will be placed or will be penned inside the chart or polygrams, or we call it as chart paper. Pero ang tawag na is polygrams. Right? Polygrams. Okay, or muna example. Ulang tawa inyong screen, mga cadets. O da, normal tracing. So kung maglantaw ka, di ba, wala siya o kana bang ga-ECG bito ka sa hospital, ingon na. O panalitan mo yan tracing, like the diacrotic notches and of the pulse rate of the person. Muna yan normal tracing, di ba? Kung maglantaw ka, normal. Pero kung ni-flat, gani ni-kalit dire, like di ana, ayo, pagsunod lang mo sa aron ako. Kung ni-kalit o pag curve, apex, di ni-padulong, di ni-flat siya, buot ipasabot, there's a possibility that the person is lying. Or, ni-dugol, ingunani ang kalagyo ingunani ang first notch niya, the second peak, the third peak, ang distansya niya is normal, tapos ni-close ang ikatulo, meaning ni-paspas ang pulse, buot ipasabot nga there's something wrong and the person might be lying. Or parehaan o ang slow pulse, una is normal. Tapos dikalit og taas ang iyang pulse rate. Na di panubo. So posible nga ani nga area kay ni deviate man siya sa baseline, posible nga kani ka area ang tao was telling a deception. Or another example, kani accelerating tracing. Accelerated responses. So normal dire ni accelerate. So there is a deviation, an indication that there is a specific deception at that portion. So dire nga portion posible nga naa siya deception kani dire nga area. Okay? Next. Natay kinds of polygraph machine. Kung sa man kinds of polygraph machine, there are only two major kinds of polygraph machine, the analog and the computerized. Pero dili lang sa analog. O sa nakalay sa analog polygraph o sa computerized polygraph. In analog polygraph, it is mainly the classic, the traditional type of polygraph machine. While in computerized, there is a computer that is attached to the polygraph machine. The computer will be labeled as the polygram, something that will record that tracing. Una is the B&W lie detector model, which records the GSR activity only. Sunod, ang killer polygraph, different model na siya. Like 6317, 6338, tapos ang 6317 was improved in the model 6338. Tapos napay 6308, we also have 302. Tapos, ang kalagmitan ang ginagamit ng Lafayette, even Forensic Investigation and Law Enforcement Academy in Cebu is using Lafayette Electrocardiograph Model 76056. There is also the Lee Polygraph, the Lee and Sons Berkeley Psychograph. Napailain, Stolting Model, with ito 600, Stolting Cardiopneumopolograph, Stolting Deceptograph Model. O kaning LX400 nga, maoy pinaka bago karon, which is a computerized type of polygraph machine. Take note guys, ayaw lang ninyo og limuwasan ang mga models. Ako lang nang gi-appeal sa discussion even if it will not come out in the board exam for you to be acquainted of the different models. Now, let us go now to the major parts of the polygraph machine. Dili na ta, importante na jud ni. Muna pinaka-vital sa discussion. Adre, atong sugdan ang pneumograph. Ang pneumograph will record the responses, the breathing cycle of the person. Kung saan ang breathing cycle, ang inhalation o ang exhalation. Okay? So, ang tawag sa inhalation o ang exhalation, ang ilang combination sa duha, ginatawag na og tidal air respiration. Okay? In addition to the tidal air, we can inhale another 1,500 cc of air called complementary air after normal expiration. A similar amount is exhaled called the supplementary. So, ang opposite sa inhalation is exhalation. Anang combination anang duha is ginatawag og tidal air respiration. Pero gawa sa tidal air respiration, pwedeng maduwagan ang 500 cc into 1,500 cc of air, ginatawag siya complementary air. Kanang pag-inhale nimo. Pag-exhale nimo, ginatawag na siya og supplementary air. Okay? So, ang pneumograph again is the part of the machine that will record the breathing cycle. So, what you can see in the pictures, makita na ninyo ang picture?
Yes, sir.
What you can see in the pictures, kanin niyo ha, sundan lang palihog ni ako ang cursor. Muna siya ay pneumograph. Okay? Kanin sa ilalo, this is me as a subject during our training, during our hands-on training in Forensic Investigation and Law Enforcement Academy in Cebu for 2 months. Duha mi ka bulan ditong makalilisang. Duha ka bulan ong training anay polygraph. Diri nga portion, ako mo'y subject. After anay, siya na po, kaya akong kauban, nga dako kayo ni, makalilisang ni Bay, taga-hulo ni Brad. Dako kayo ni, anay andri portion, dako kayo ni ulat. Ano Purag tinigbasan ba? Para po kunong utana, pero tinigbasan. Kami doon mo'y partner, Muslim Muslim. So siya ako ipauna. Na polygraph examiner. Duha man lagi ni kabuk, sir. Unsa man duha man lagi kabuk ni tubes. Rubberized tubes. Duha kabuk ni Choy, ha? Una, pneumo 1. Ikaduha, pneumo 2. Pneumograph 1. Malikon ako ha. Pneumograph 1, pneumograph 2. What is the difference between the two? Pneumograph 1 is attached to the abdomen part of the person. Pneumograph 2 is attached to the chest part of the subject. Nganong kinahanglan duha man, sir? Kinahanglan duha kay ngano man kung mag-respiration dai ka mga tsuyek, naga-involve di ay sa contraction sa abdomen o sa chest. Okay? So, mo ginawa day ka, mapil o ginawa imong chest, mo, murot mo po imong chest, di ba? Imong dugan. So, kinahanglan og na pneumo 2. So, asang pneumo 1? Abdomen, sa imong tiyan. Ikaduha, pneumo 2 dito sa chest. Pila kabuk arms sa lingkuranan. Duha kabuk arms sa inyong makita. Duha kabuk arms ha. Paminaw mga choy. Duha na kabuk arms. Okay? Ang na-attach anin the pneumograph pa. Asol kayo ni mag-polygraph. Pangutana, sir, makontrol man gud nimo ang respiration, sir. Unya, mingon pa kang reliable ang tracing. O munang later on tuganan ta mo kung ganahan ba ko ani polygraph machine. Later on tudloan ta mo. Utugan ko ninyo sa akong personal experience kung reliable ba gud siya or dili. Pero anyway, muna yun pneumograph. Sunod ang galvanograph. The galvanograph records the skin resistance of the subject to a very small amount of electricity. Kung sa ganito ng electricity, Veles, ano yung small amount of electricity sa ito yung ngalan? The name is
Ohms, sir.
Very good, Jude. Ohms. So according to Veles, ohms ang smallest amount of electricity. Now, the GSR comprises finger or palm electrodes. It runs about 4 or 7 seconds, 7 light vertical line. When a reaction takes place, the galvanograph tracing can be the most, take note pinaka-accurate of all the 3 components in chart interpretation. It is considered as the most precise among the 3 divisions. Without its recording, 30% of accurate chart interpretation is lost. So therefore, between galvanograph, pneumograph, hydrospigmograph, reliable galvanograph, because you cannot control galvanograph or the galvanic skin resistance. Di jud ka makakontrol sa imong singot, choy. Di ka pwede mo nga, huy, ayaw gawa singot. Di jud ka pwede mo singot jud ka. Alang kuyaw na kayo kay naninuplok lagi. The more ang gisingot ka, the more na naay resistance sa electricity. So ang pangutana, asa man among gibuhat. Asa man gi-attach mga choy? Gi-attach ni siya ha? O na, ayaw jud mo kalimot. Ring finger. Okay? Ring finger. Ikaduha, index finger. Gusto mo rin thumb, index, middle, ring, little finger. Ang attach ka ni ring finger. Tunod. Sa iyahang nga, index, ring finger. Ang utan na, sir, walay ring, walay, ang iyang, as right hand man wala man ring finger, sir. Putol man iyang kamot. O butang sa left hand, yun ay finger. Sir, wala may kamot siya, sir, sa left o sa right. O di, ang alam, mag-polygraph ka nga, incompetent man ang subject, hindi ayaw pag-polygraph. Ay, wala kay katasan sa ibuang nga galvanograph. Diba? Asa man, imugata sa galvanograph, ang alas iyang tango. Dili, pwede. Adro mo na sa ring og sa, tayara mo na fingers. Kung wala yung ring og ang iya nga index, o di, ato ka tayo nga fingers. Sunod, cardiopulmonograph. Ang cardiopulmonograph will record number 1, the blood pressure, number 2, the pulse rate. Okay? The cardiopulmonograph again will record the blood pressure and the pulse rate. Asa man imong giutang? Take note ha. I believe most of you, I don't know, most ba or some of you in this class already experienced taking BP or taking blood pressure from somebody. Okay? Or you try to know your blood pressure by subjecting to BP test. Kanang gi-attach sa inyuhang 1 inch above sa elbow. Diba naman kayo gi-attach sa buborot diha? Kanang sa arm cuff. Muna sa cardiopulmonograph. Same radya po na siya. So, pressure is measured in millimeters of mercury. Para sa pagkos-P. Pulse rate per minute may be counted by multiplying the number of beats counted in 1 division by 12. Unsa man ang 1 division? O nga line, ikaduha nga time. Ang contain ana, sulod ang ka line, usa ka division. I-multiply nimo nag dose rate na number of beats sa iyang pulse rate. Okay? So, unsa man Unsa may tapon Simple na kayo mga choy. O, diba? Katong lingon nga nasa mag-BP ka. Asa ni mo ka-touch? 1 inch ha, above the elbow. So, sana, na-attach na ba dire? Attach na ba? Na-attach na. Sir, ano man na mong giingon, sir, nga ang galvanograph na lagi sa left hand. Tapos, ang imuha nga cardiopulmonograph na pod sa left hand. Yung ka, sir, as right ni siya. Okay, ingon ani ha. There are a lot of books that exist in terms of polygraph examination. But according to my readings, and even NBI, National Bureau of Investigation, now, this is Dr. Kalang. Dr. Kalang was the polygraph examiner in Forensic Investigation and Enforcement Academy. But after the hour of Dr. Kalang, we also have an NBI agent who discusses topics that will augment the discussion of Dr. Kalang. Now, ingon natin ha, para di ta matalang mga choy. Dire, nakabutang sa akong left index finger, di ba? Left index o left ring finger. Asa ko ang cardiopulmonograph na ko, naka-attach dire po sa left. Now, according to some advices, opinions from the experts, the attachment of the cardiopulmonograph and the galvanograph has to be separated and should not be attached in the same arm. I repeat, it should not be attached, these two major parts, in the same arm, because this might affect the tracings, considering that ang cardiopulmonograph will press the arm of the subject. So in order not to influence or not to cause abnormal reactions on the galvanic skin reflex of the person, this should be on the right index or on the right finger. So kung ang cardio nimo na-adri sa picas, mas maayo nga ang imong galvano na-adri sa left. Kung ang cardio na sa left, dapat ang imong galvano na-adri sa right. Padili kayo maapektaran ang function sa ilanga. Kaya posible nga, kung ma-press ni siya by kalilisang, madugay biya na mag-polygraph machine, sakit jud kayo. Video, sakit kayo, kaya mabot pa nag 10 minutes. Kaya mag-mechanical adjustment pa na, mausahay. Tapos mag-record pa ka, makalilisang. Balindugaya kayo. Kaya sakit kayo, ako nga subject, tapos makalilisang, sakit. So, maapektaran ang galvanic skin reflex. Okay? Pero muna attachment sa cardiopulmonograph. Okay? Now, circulatory system. This is responsible for diastole and systole. Systole meaning the contracting of the heart. Kanang mo-release og blood ang heart. Ang diastole mokuha siya og blood. Urag foam. Kabante ka ng dishwashing foam. So kung imo puon systole ang foam, imuhang buhi ang diastole. So, pagpugaan nimo, ma-release niya itong sabon. Ang sabon, itong blood. Imo siyang iparelax, buhian nimo, mokuha siya, musuyop siya o blood. Sabon. Ang tawag na diastole. Ang combination na ginatawag o blood pressure. Kung sa ibuti pasabot o blood pressure, sir, kanandaghan kag dugo, dili mga choy ha. Nabay ubami mo, taas kay kag dugo, atong kuhaan, para munubo, dili. Pasabot na blood pressure, taas kayo ang pressure sa imong dugo. Buso ay blood pressure sa dugo. Ang pressure sa dugo while ga-travel siya sa veins or sa arteries sa tao. So imagine nimo nga ang veins or ang ugat usa siya ka tubo. Ang tubo kung napuno siya og hugaw, posible nga ma-stuck ang water. Kung ma-stuck ang water, tapos nag-agi sige ang water, may tabo nga moborot. So muna mo pressure. Ang pressure nga ma-create diya, nga posibleng mubuto ang ang veins nga mo ikamatay sa tao. Okay? Next. A systolic pressure of much lower than 80 is usually associated with shock. Average pulse rate per minute for fetal life, anang magmalatay na, 144 to 133, paspas na. At birth, up to 1 year old, 140 to 123. 8 to 15, 96 to 76. From 20 to 25 years old, we have 73 to 69. Okay? Muna normal nga per minute. Next, ang last nga major major part, ang chemograph. Again, tulo lang kabuk ang i-attach sa body sa tawo. Ito na, tulo lang ha, tulo lang yun. O na, pneumographs. Pneumograph. Duha, pneumo 1, pneumo 2. Cardius pneumograph above the 1 inch above the elbow of the subject. Then the galvanograph, ring, and index finger. Tulo lang kabuk ang gingon ha. Ang chemograph na ikaw pat, the major part of the polygraph machine is thus a chart drive module. Kung sa man ang chart drive module, siya mobira sa polygraph paper or polygram. Okay? Kaya kung dili niya birahon ang chart mo nga ang pen sa polygraph machine will be tracing on the same portion or the same space of the paper. Okay? The same space na. So dapat tayo mo pull para lahi-lahi og space. Mo pull na is the chemograph. This motor that pulls or drives the chart paper under the recording pen at the same time at the rate of 6 to 12 inches per minute. Take note of the time. A chart roll is about 100 feet long, 6 inches wide within blah 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 blah. Paper imprinted with horizontal line space at 1/4 inch interval, 20 divisions, and vertical lines at 1 inch interval. So, sunod. Okay, muna ha. Akong balikon. This is the polygraph machine that we used in Forensic Investigation Law Enforcement Academy in our 2 months training. Ang na-train ko sa polygraph examination April 14, 2015. Yung date dire. Okay, ato ang kanon ha. Ayaw lang ninyo memorize ha. Ayaw lang dyan ninyo memorize ha. Kung inyo memorize na mag-kumpa. Matula mo ane. O muna gipang attach mga wire consisting of pneumograph, galvanograph, blah blah blah. These are the different knobs. Okay, these are the different knobs. Take note that a polygraph machine will have to depend the number of pens in accordance to the model of the polygraph machine. There are some model of the polygraph machine consisting of 8, 6, blah blah blah. But in this Lafayette type of model, kuan lang siya kabuk upat ka pens. Alright? Upat ka pens, which is very basic. This pen, or these are knobs. These knobs, the purpose of this one is for the function to make an alignment of the 4 pens. Dili ka mo adjust. At the same time, dili po ka mo pindot para sa galvanograph. This is for the ink. Ink niha, na ilahi o color. Pwede pula, pwede itom, pwede di kinalan, usa ka color per pen. Bahala pag duha ka bukang niyumo 1, pneumo 2, kinahanglang lahi o color ang pneumo 1 o pneumo 2. So this is the pen for pneumo 1. This is the pen for pneumo 2. This is the color. Container niya para sa color sa galvanograph. Mao na yung pen, tapos mao ni sa pneumograph, cardius pneumograph o sa kapen. So lahi sila og record. That is why naay mga knobs dire nga inyo ang makita kay imong gi-adjust mga choy. Kay kung ang usa gadalagan pati ani nga division ang mahitabo niya, mag-abot silang tanan dire usa ka linya. So dapat ang galvanograph na sa taas, ang cardius pneumograph na sa ubos, tapos ubos ana ang pneumo 2, mas ubosan pneumo 2 ang pneumo 1 para lahi-lahi og tracing, mas dali ang pag-analyze. Ang motor that pulls this paper kani galukot ani mao ang chemograph. Imuha ni husod dire kani ni kuhaon nimo ni dire nga portion kani mga lock ni. Kuhaon nimo ni nga lock, pwede nimo ning maibot. Pag ibot nimo naa diha ang chemograph, makita nimo sa ilalom. Kaning niong rubber, something that will stop the flow of the paper. So kung dili na ka mo ask all questions, imo ni ipanaba, ipaunubo para mo break. Mo break siya sa paper. Okay? This one will determine the blood pressure. Diba? Kanang magkuan ka, kanang mag-BP ka, patasan man as 180 ba or as 160 ba dayong Pahiyusan siya para munubo. Pag abot sa 80, i-stop na mo ang kani nga needle. Speed mo manometer, ang tawagan niya, speed mo manometer. Imo siyang, di ba, kani mo kagangin. Imo siyang imutan sa 80, tapos imong pahugpan ni para dili siya munubo padulong sa 70. Okay? Nganaon ang paggamit sa lami gudon tani kung ang ato ang review is physical para at least madala na ko to sa polygraph sa FU tapos mag-demo unta gyud tani para at least ba di ko ta ignorante. Ma-ignorante ta na budlay kayo. Oh, this is me adjusting on the polygraph machine. O siya po akong subject ani. I was putting ink, was refilling the container with ink. Okay? Kani nga portion kani muna alagian sa ink. Ang kani nga part na connect di siya sa needle na ay gamay kay nga bag ang needle didto sulat ang needle sa polygraph. Okay? So siya na po akong subject ani. I was adjusting, I was refilling ink to the container. These are our participants during the polygraph hands-on training. So muna usually ang tracing sa pen, ha? Ang pen. Dili niya siya ballpoint pen. Darag yun siya gamay nga bangag nga diya mo gawas ang ink. Okay? So before ta mo proceed, pangutana sa mo. I believe you have a lot of questions to ask. Questions, please? Questions? Nakasabot ra, palihog. Kindly inform me, please. Yes, we have Cadet Ramirez. Cadet Ramirez wants to say something.
Sir, what if, sir, ang suspect, sir, kuan, sir, ganang before siya mo-undergo og polygraph test, sir, ba, na-disgrasya siya. Then, naputol iyang kuan, iyang mga fingers, gani, sir, or iyang arm, whole arm niya. Nang duwa ka buok.
Patunlas ako kay Beng Gutuma. A very good question by Cadet Ramirez. This is what I am talking a while ago. Do not subject a person to polygraph examination if he is not competent. Put that in mind, ha? Put that in mind. Do not subject a person to polygraph examination if he is not physically competent. When I say physically competent, all of the limbs, all of the parts of the body should be present. Okay? Should be present. If by accident, a person lost his arms, the left and the right arms, do not subject him for polygraph examination. Why? Because he is physically incompetent. Okay? Wala siya index, wala siya ring. Ang nana is little finger, thumb, and the middle finger. Then put the galvanograph in the thumb and the little finger of the person. Some would say, sir, ako po nagipangutana sa NBI. Sir, some would say nga, kung wala siya both arms, ato sa tiil. According to the NBI, no. No. It's a big no. There is a big difference as to the skin resistance, to the ohm electricity, when you put the galvanograph on the feet and putting it on the arms of the person. Kubal na kalamitan. Thank you for the question, Cadet Ramirez. How about others? Kung tanay tawon mo. Sir, ningon si Tulfo. Ningon si Tulfo. Ako bahala sa polygraph examination. Lie detector test. Oh, di ba, Mr. Sharon? Ako bahala dyan. Sa lie detector test. Willing ka ba? Di ba, Mr. Sharon? Ang pangutana, what if person will not permit himself to undergo polygraph examination? The question is, can he be considered as guilty? What is your response? Arkelian?
No, sir.
Very good. The answer, according to Lamina, the answer is no. No. Really, ha? muna sayop kayo ba nga, mausahay, maglagot pa ko, lantaw ko anang kuan. Yeah, take note. Muna akong gingon sa inyo ha. I will tell you my opinion. This is just my opinion ha. I'm not trying to deviate your belief. I'm not trying to persuade you to be on my side. But when I had that 2 months training in polygraph examination, I was really reluctant to put my trust on the polygraph examination, considering that there are a lot of factors that would affect the credibility of the result. Ano mang, unang factor, you can control your respiration. Am I correct or not? Makontrol ba ninyo?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Unsa may klaro araw, Rams? Makontrol mo imong respiration or dili?
Dili, sir.
Madan. Di siguro rin makontrol. Ako buti pasabot ba? Makontrol ba nimo ang imong pagginhawa, ang cycle nimo, ang imong breathing ba? Pwede ba ka mo ginawa, paspasan nimo, pwede po ka mo hinahinay, di ba? Pwede ka mo utong. Correct or dili?
Yes,
Correct,
sir.
sir.
Oh, kung muutong ka, na siya ginatawag og aning sitaw kani flat curve. Flat curve. Kung di ba, mag-alam na dito. Kung muutong ka, day mo flat siya, buti pa sa butwa, kani ginawa or taas ang imong pag-utong, that is an indication of deception. Ang pangutana kay pwede man yung nang makontrol. Una na nga factor, which I do not like. Ikaduha nga factor. The second factor which I do not like in the polygraph examination is when you do unnecessary movements, automatically that unnecessary movements will create curved lines on the polygram. What in mind ha? You are not allowed to move. So kung gakusog nag-tracing diha, nikalit na gamay na kayo movement sa imong finger, bye, mudritso nagkataas imong polygraph machine. Taas polygraph machine. Bukalit og taas ang imong curve. Mudeviate diretso ang curve, bukalit og taas. Kay imo gimove ang imong finger bisag gamay lang. Paglantaw dito sa polygraph examiner bingon, oy, gamay naro man kaan nga portion kay nao, ni-deviate mga curve line. But in reality, nakalihok na kagamay, unnoticed by the polygraph examiner. I hope nakuha ninyo akong punto. So it's very, in my own opinion only, I'm not saying you side with me. With due respect to your dean. With due respect to your dean. I'm not saying you have to side with me. I'm not trying to say you rally at my back. I'm saying I'm just trying to voice out my opinion. That is why polygraph examination should not be something that could, Pero ang galvanograph on the other side could be a reliable source. Okay? Ang reliable source. Kaya ang galvanograph will be on the skin reflex on the individual. Ang nakadaot mo kung yung cardiosphemograph, kada gibutang sa elbow, kumuliok po kagamay, automatic. Gamay ng liok-liok ba? Di ba bantayan sa polygraph examiner? That is why right now I am not sold out. Completely convinced that the polygraph examination should be, a reliable evidence. Pero kung mahimo mo criminal investigator, put this in mind, gamitan lang ninyo ni as an aid of investigation. Okay? As an aid of investigation. Di kay mo diretso mo gamit og polygraph. Talagsaon kayo ang expert ani. Other questions aside from Ramirez?
Gamit ba tayo polygraph, sir?
Very good question. According to Ilona, are we using polygraph examination right now? Yes. The answer is yes. In fact, there are a lot of court decisions I could cite. I will cite that later on. There are many court decisions that utilize polygraph examination. Pero ako ningon ha, ng ebidensya niya, polygraph examination result ra, akong buti pasabot, usa sa mga evidences presented to the court was a polygraph examination result. And there are cases that I will be citing to you later on. I have to say also that the acceptance of the polygraph examination result as an evidence will actually depend on the discretion of the judge. of the presiding judge. If the presiding judge is is not that convinced of the credibility of the polygraph examination, then therefore you as a person cannot present it to the court because the court will not accept it. But if in case those persons or those judges, presiding judges, which are savvy on technological skills and they believe 100% that polygraph examination could something that could measure the deception of a person, then so be it, the polygraph examination result can be an evidence. But do not tell the people in the community that polygraph examination can be used to tell that a person is guilty or innocent. Usarang yun ako ninyo cadets kung makatrabaho mo sa PNP. Reviewhan ninyo tanan ang leksyon ninyo sa college. Kay maura Japon ang mga prinsipyo nga inyong i-adapt dapat. Ang polygraph examination, muna nakasayop ni po dyan. Dili na siya mo determine kung ang tao guilty ba or innocent. Okay? Because the determination of guilt and innocence of the person lies only on one agency of the government. And that agency is the court. Only the court has the sole responsibility and power to determine if the person is guilty or not. You as the expert witness, you as the polygraph examiner has no power at all to tell that the person is guilty or innocent. Your authority as a polygraph examiner is only to tell the court that this person is lying on this specific question. Nakuha ninyo? Is lying on this specific question. Nga galay na siya ani nga person. Libot ipasabot nga binuang jud kaning katulpo binuang ragud kaayo. Tapos nakay katungod nga mo atras. Panalitan kasugod na ang polygraph minka nga uy sorry joke ragod. Pwede mo atras. Pwede mo ka joke lang di na kumapin. Pwede. Nakay katungod imo na katungod ha. Yung ba dayon nga sige i-polygraph exam ka magkaalaman na ha. Possibly on lying side, but never on the determination of guilt or innocence. So I will cite later on, Cadet Ilona, some cases decided by the court. Pero dili lang ang polygraph exam. Again, polygraph examination result is not a prima facie evidence. It could only be a supplemental evidence to augment, your claim that the person is guilty of the accusation. Other questions? O mangutana ko nimo, kuan? O ispar siya. Tayong paminaw, kada ispar siya. Ikaw, presiding judge, sugot ra kas polygraph. Dili. Depende sa inyo ha. Hindi ako gayon yung ha?
Depende
O depende na sa presiding judge. Ha? Depende sa presiding judge. Ang pagdetermina na ha. So lang ilang pangutan tayo mo proceed ta. Alas 4 na nabagod.
Sir,
Yes, Cadet Ramirez.
anong delay acknowledge sa court ang polygraph, sir?
Dili, what I'm saying is gi-acknowledge sa court. Acknowledge ha. That is why I mentioned a while ago that there are cases already decided in the court that utilize polygraph examination results. I will be mentioning later on that those cases that utilize polygraph examination results. Meaning, muna yung mga kaso nga gihimo ang o gagamit o polygraph examination results as one of the evidences being presented. So
Magdepende sa judge, sir.
Yeah, magdepende. Kay kalagmita, kung ang judge is savvy in terms of technology, sabi kayo. Pero kung kato mga judges in town nga wa magay kay bangkaagan, so di kabalo mo encode. No side are hesitant on the acceptance of the polygraph result. But generally speaking ha, wa ko ningon di madawat sa korte. It's just that there are judges who are somewhat, hesitant. Pero na tayo mga cases na utilize of polygraph. Napa ba? Napa ba yung questions?
None, sir.
Wala na. Proceed ta? Sige, mo proceed ta kay alas 4 na. Pauli pa huwag shaton. Salamat sa pagpangutanan. Let us proceed. If you have questions, if you still have questions later, I will give you time to to speak, to voice out your your inquiries. Polygraph examination is conducted in a polygraph examination room that is 90% soundproof. Kung siya, usually glass, made of glass wall. The subject should not be facing a glass window or another room during the test because downside possible distractions may affect the test responses. Even a mirror is not allowed inside the polygraph room. Kung sa may nasa polygraph room, ang duha ka arms, ang lingkuranan nga duha ka bukay ang arms, ipatong niya ang duha ka arms sa subject. Sunod is ang table. Maulang na table o ang chair consisting of two arms. Tapos sa pikas sa side na dito ang examiner. Dayon mo ko ang subject. Dayon diretso na question na dayon. Uses of polygraphy. Okay, take note ha. Investigative aid lang ni. Meaning, for investigation purposes only. Confirm statements from the victim, ascertain the credibility of witnesses, assess truthfulness of suspects. It speeds the process of investigation. It eliminates innocent subjects. It can identify other persons involved. So let us say, for example, a person is raped and murdered in a particular area, and there are 20 suspects. It would be very taxing. It would be very taxing on the part of the criminal investigator if he will investigate one person to another. Imagine 20, mamangka na after 10 years. So, bato nimo is eliminating innocent suspects. So, possible of method for the elimination is by the utilization of the polygraph. Dora, kane. Sa punis mga factors nga ang polygraph di kayo ko believe ani ba. It is accurate as the examiner is competent. It is an aid to investigation, not a substitute ha, not a substitute. Buti pa sabot pag-investigate o sa gamita sa tools of investigation o sa matong tools of investigation, information either covert or overt. Kung dili madala pag-interrogate or pag-interview, kung di madala gamit og instrumentation, mag chemical process pa kadiha. Sa kabag, polygraph. The test should not be administered without the consent of the subject. Klaro ha? Kung di mo sugot, ayaw pugsa. Dili mo tayo pasabot. No. No indication will be given to any person or written in any report that a person is guilty because he refuses to take the test. Dili na sayop si Tulpo. Dili na sayop. Dili na ibuti pasabot nga kung mo-refuse siya, guilty na siya because there will be no indications which will be incurred if a person refuses to take the polygraph examination. A test should not be administered until the accusations have been explained to the subject. Apel niya, apel ang Miranda rights ani. The right to remain silent, the right to counsel. Apel niya. Examination should not be conducted to an unfit subject. Unsa man yung mga unfit nga subject? Modera. Muna ni question ni Ramirez. Putol na ng mga kamot. Bisag wala na putol di ay, kadit Ramirez, pwedeng physically incompetent ang person to take a polygraph examination kung wala siya katulog 5 hours at least. Gikan mang namaili ang subject. Dili pwede. Wala may tulog. Huwag kay tulog. Maka-affect man na sa imo nga abante ka ng tao nga walay tulog, tapos budula og basket, gamala. Dili kayo makakuha ng ohms ba? Kato mga hinabako diha. O choy, dili pwede ka mo take og polygraph examination 2 hours prior to the test. Kung mitabako ka, dili pwede. Should not undergo prolonged interrogation or interview prior to the test. He should not be subjected to any physical abuse or body contact. Gikulata ka daan o sa kagipolygraph, dili pwede. Must refrain from drinking alcoholic beverages, sedatives, capsules, syrup, blah, blah, blah. Any type of drug, at least 12 hours. And nakainom ka, incompetent ka. Gihilantan, incompetent. You must not be suffering from any temporary illnesses such as headache, toothache, fever, menstruation for female, kung girigla, severe colds, cough, etc. Unsa pa na? He must not be hungry. He must not have sex indulgence prior to the test. So, maliwanag pa sa sikat ng araw mga cadets. Sumuda na dapat basahon ni Brother Tulpo. Basahon sa day niya ni. Uy, basahon sa diya. Usa mo recommend for polygraph examination. Okay, magpataka ra ba? O, nabay pangutana? O, nya na. Kaya ito sang tiwason ni. Sunod. Adretas phases of polygraph examination. Apil na sa inyo ang exam this coming Thursday and Friday ha. Ako nang gi-apil. There are 3 phases. Phase 1, interview with the investigator. Second phase, pre-test interview. Pre-test interview. Third phase, instrumentation. Okay? Or the actual test. Phase 4, post-test interview. I repeat, walang phases ha. Phase 1, initial interview with the investigator. Phase 2, pre-test interview. Phase 3, instrumentation or the actual test. Phase 4, post-test interview. Okay? Kana lang yun, alik-balika lang yun ninyo ni, ma-memorize na ninyo ni, makuha na ninyo. Bisan pag mag-answer mo sa board exam, piyong-piyongan ninyo. Mingon ang proctor nga, uy, gano'n gapiyong ka, dong? Akong gipiyongan, ma'am, kay sayon na kayo ang questions to this board.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, question, go.
Pwede yung sub tong kuan, sir, katong 4 phases, sir.
Oh.
Gaputol-putol ka, gaputol-putol.
Putol-putol. Makita, sige. Ako rin balik ko na ko ha. Ay na lang, dili na lang ako balikon. Naara sa screen. Makita ang screen, ang phase 1?
Yes, sir, makita na, sir.
Kada sa phase 1 sa ilista ang phase 2. Ang sunod nga slide is phase 2. Sige, kay para malista jud maayo ha. Sige, phase 1. By the way, guys, para masabtan pod ni mas labi nga naa mo day notes tapos tuwa na ni Dean Marino ang photocopies, not photocopies, the soft copies of the review materials I have right now, not just in the polygraph subject but also other subjects, so you can take a look at it tapos dito na lang i-incorporate po ninyo inyong notes, ha? Ang Ma'am JPL. Okay? Sige. Pero pag jot down na po mo para at least di mo malimot pa. Phase 1 is the interview with the investigator. Now, sa'yo may tabuan ng interview with the investigator in phase 1. Una, the examiner gather facts about the case. Interview the investigator, gather crime scene sketch, and interview witnesses. So, saan ay process ani? O saan man ay proseso ani? Dili ta magpinasagad ha kung ma-investigator ta. Because if you are the person, if you are the police officer assigned to investigate on the case, you can request for a polygraph examination. Asa man ka mo request? Sa crime lab. Asa man ang crime lab? Tuwa sa Cebu. So if you are the criminal investigator, mga uy, papoy naman kayo ning dugay na tasig pang interview niya. Di pa man kung makakuha ko og lead. Mas mayo na ni ako ni undergo polygraph examination ni. Mugama ko written request pinarmahan sa ako nga chief of police akong i-address dito sa crime lab. Tapos kung ma-accept na dito, patawag ka sa crime lab, ang polygraph examiner, interviewon ka. Pangayon to mga crime scene sketch, mga witnesses nimo, uguban pa nga mga details na importante. Kay kato nga mga sketches, kato nga mga details sa witnesses testimony, mao to'y gamiton sa pag-draft og relevant, irrelevant, and control questions are formulated. Ato nang iskutan unya kung saan ang relevant o irrelevant. Investigator must furnish the examiner with an incident report, sworn statement, and background investigation of the suspect, witnesses, victim, or complainant. Buot ipasabot, duha lang kabuok ang mahitabo sa phase 1. Duha lang ha. Una, interviewon nimo ang investigator kabahin sa kaso. Part sa interview, pangayoon nimo tong tanan-tanan nga magamit. Ikaduha, magama ka og questions para sa polygraph examination. Akong balikon. Duha lang mahitabo sa phase 1. Interviewon nimo ang investigator. Pag-interview nimo, of course, mapil na to mga details sa krimen. Ikaduha, magama ka og questions based sa information that you get from the investigator. So, phase 1, interview with the investigator. Phase 2, pre-test interview. When you say pre, before the test. Examiner interviews and brief the subject about his constitutional rights, his involvement in the case and determining his suitability as a subject. Examiner obtain the consent of the subject, evaluate the subject's psychological preparation, and taking his personal data. Okay? Diha ang daghan sa pre-test interview. Kaya nga naman, number 1, you have to tell the Miranda rights. You have to elaborate the Miranda rights. We subject you for polygraph examination because you have been accused of blah 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 blah. That is the first right, to be informed. Kaduha, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you will say will be used against you as evidence in the court. Ikatulo, you have the right to counsel. If you cannot afford with one, the government will give you with an attorney from the public attorney's office. Humana, i-brief na nimo sa iyang constitutional rights. Sunod, lantawon nimo ang iyang physical suitability. Okay? Saan ang physical suitability? If he is a competent. Kung wa siya nakatulog, ayaw. Kung wa siya arms, o di ayaw. Kung gikan siyang ni jogs sa iyang uyab, di ayaw. Gikan siyang gatabako, ayaw. O di ka incompetent man. Ikatulo, waon nimo ang consent sa subject. What if the subject will not provide his consent? Then therefore, you cannot force a person to undergo polygraph examination if he does not permit it. Because if you will subject a person to polygraph examination without his volition, patay dugod ka diha choy. Patay jud ka kay mag-grave coercion god ang gawas nimo. Mag-grave coercion ka kung imong pugson. Sunod, iyahang psychological preparation and you take his personal data. Unsa man personal data? Nag-aasa siya, pilang edad, lalaki, babae, unsa full name. Mutoy sa pre-test. Sunod, katulo, muna ni instrumentation na for the actual test. So in this phase, i-attach na nimo tong sabay kay itong i-attach cardiospermograph. Asa kita sa cardiospermograph? 1 inch above the elbow of the subject. Galvanograph. Asa nito ang galvanograph? O ring finger o index finger. Sunod, pneumo 1 o pneumo 2. Pneumograph 1, pneumo 2. Address abdomen o address sa chest. Okay? I-attach na nimo. Sunod, i-review sa nimo ang questions being prepared with the subject before the actual examination is made. So, buot, ipasabot. Klaro kayo akong pagkabutang ha, mga cadets? Imuha dahing reviewon ang questions. Buot, ipasabot, imo na diayng gipabalo sa subject kung on-site questions nga manggawas before the actual examination is made. Klaro ha? Klaro dyan na, akong pag-ingon, kay review sa ang questions, kung humanag-review, may kayo nga, kuan, tugahok, muna question number 1, is your full name Juan de la Cruz? O question number 2, muna, is it true that you live in blah blah blah? Hato naman sa last question. Kung na-review na ng questions, actual examination na, magsugod na ka. Pero ang imong question should be answerable by yes or no. Wala na ilain na yes or no. So kanayo nakita sa salida nga unsa pa nang panulayan na ang mga salida nga Mission Impossible nga si Tom Cruise o ang iyang mga kauban ga-undergo polygraph examination tapos gayaw-yaw ang subject aside from telling yes or no, dili na tinuod. What ra mo ana? As polygraph exam day yes or no raman di ay. Human na kag polygraph exam o di imong interview ang subject. Pero before nimo i-interview ang subject, after naka-turn off ka ang ang usalan ang machine, iyon sa mo, sige, sir, pwede sa, paway sa dagadali sila, kaya ako sa lantawon ang result. Imong lantawon tong fluctuations, deviations, nga makaingon nga, the person is lying. Uy, sa question number 6 nga, lingon dito nga, were you at the crime scene at 9 o'clock in the evening when the crime happened? Tapos iyang answer is no. Uy, deceptive man. Buti pasabot, nagbinaro siya buti pasabot dito ni siya sa crime scene. Magkabalo ni mo ana sa fluctuations, mubalik ka sa subject. Mayon ka dito nga, sir, you may lie to me but you cannot lie on the machine. It seemed that you lied on this specific question, meaning you were at the crime scene. Unsa maguday tinuod, sir? Pagkabalo sa subject nga, mabalaan na dahil Japon siya, posible nga mo confess or mo admit siya sa krimen. If mo confess na gani siya, or mo admit sa krimen, ang imong himuon, Choyek, tawga ang iyang lawyer, i-put into writing ang iyang confession, tapos ipanotarize dayon. Tayo gamiton na nimo ang confession as evidence in the court. Nakuha ninyo ang process? Diretso na dayon. Sir, deceptive siya sa question number 6, pero di ko siya mo admit. O di, problema na niya. Basta at least, you will know, and you will present it to the court. Dahil yung kanito sa court nga, Your Honor, based on my analysis and examination of the polygraph tracing, I found out that he was lying on the question as to his specific location when the crime happened. So, Your Honor, I think, in my own expertise, he is lying that he was absent when the crime was happened because he was found to be deceptive. So, mayroon ang korte, okay. So, buti pasabot dito guday siya sa krimen. Okay. Dito guday siya sa site nga naitabo ang krimen. So, posible nga na siya involvement sa crime. So, ang iyang involvement sa crime, lahi na po na nga evidence kaya mo nga gipresent. Dili na polygraph examination result. Dito lang ka sa deception niya nga ningon siya nga wala siya sa crime scene. Okay? Pero kung mo confess o mo admit again, process jud ana. Kuha day ang lawyer, naranang lawyer niya on the other room, bantay sa iya. Or posible nasa sa polygraph examination room. O lawyer, attorney, o ni-confess siya, put into writing, papirmahan. Pagkahuman, panotarize. Mag-notarize, diretso na. Di ikaw nga investigator, sus. Hayag pasalkitran ang imong kaugmaon. Solve them imong case. Okay? Sige, nabay questions? Stop sa ako kadali ha. Stop sa ako kay para at least matagal na time na matag og questions ang cadets. Go! Sige, questions. Naba, please. Sige na, it's not the time to ask questions. Phase 1, sa metabo, interview with the investigator, and then you draft questions. Phase 2, briefing of the constitutional rights or the Miranda rights of the person, and then taking of the knowing the suitability of the subject, and then you take his consent. Okay, take his consent. You will also determine the psychological preparedness of the person. Then phase 3 instrumentation, imo nga gi-review ang questions, tapos mag-instrumentation na kadayon. Phase 4, post-test interview, imo nga evaluate ang tracing, tapos kung may deception, imo ang interview o balik ang subject. Questions? Wala? Wala questions? Anay questions kadit Akiliano? Wala lang. How about other cadets? Wala lang? Palihog kung may questions at
Wala lang sir.
Wala lang. Sige. Akong isunod ang next na slide. Sige, sunod. Maklaro lang ang presentation, ang slide. Inform me please.
Yes sir.
Okay, sunod. Wala na. Dili lang ta. Dili. Kaya importante. Can a minor qualify for polygraph examination? Legally speaking, under Republic Act 9344 and Presidential Decree 603 of our laws in the Philippines, every engagement of a minor to any operation of the criminal justice system needs what we call as informed consent. So pwede, but again, there has to be an informed or written consent coming from the guardian or the parent. But most examiners will not take 12-year-old polygraph test because sometimes the tracings or the responses is not accurate. Can medication affect the test result? Yes, that is why dili ka pwedeng mo take og drugs 12 hours prior to the test. Any drug or medication that suppresses normal activity can affect the central nervous system. Can a pregnant woman be subject for polygraph test? It depends. Kung wala pa galihok ang iyang fetus, kay bata pa kayo, isa pa kabulan, pwede. Pero, kung kasi naglihok ang bata sa sulod, kay wala mingon ni bata nga, ma, magalawas na ko ma, pwede na ko nimo gaman og lain. Sige glihok, kadali ni bata, kay kana siyang pasundan dayon, pwede, kadili nimo patikon. O dili jud nimo patikon, kay maka-affect mo to movement sa bata. O dira, ako balikon ni. Dura, Cadet Ilona. Is polygraph examination result admissible in court? O sa punis question ni Cadet Ramirez. Yes, if allowed by the judge. Claro, Cadet Ramirez? Yes, if allowed by the judge. The judge will not use polygraph result if an accredited and inexperienced examiner administered the test. Buot na ipasabot, kay gabak pagkahuman na mo ani gamak trial man gud mi, nakasulay na mo mock trial, cadets? Mock trial, nakasulay na wala pa? Uy, wala pa. Pagsulay mo ani ha, kana ba mo adto mas korte nga wala mo ga present og evidence. Para at least mo practice mo daan. Kay pasig pag-abot niya dito, ang nahitabo sa krimen kay ang cellphone sa complainant gibutang niya stable. Pagbalik niya, nawala. Dahil mo kito, Your Honor, he put the cellphone on the table. When he come back, no more. Katawan tas judge, ana. Tarunga jud ninyo, ha? Tarunga jud ninyo, kaya na. Ingon niya na, judge, di sa ka ni-graduate. Umingisog na gani ang judge, paminaw na mo nga, di sa ka ni-graduate. Ayog tubag na kuska, kay mulawan na kuska, may ka nga, nurso, sir, nurso main. May na nurso main, may madaot. Pag pamilyo na mo, kasaman gani ka sa judge, kay the judge is the king of the court. Whether you like it or not, whatever rank you are, even if you are a general, even if you are a colonel, whatever you are, whatever rank, kung naka sa korte, the king of the court is no other than the presiding judge. Pamilyo na mo nga, mangisog na ang judge, kay wala ka nagkadimaw, imong inilisa, nagkadupit-dupit na brad, tana ang judge. Asa maka nag-graduate di ay? Nga, di makakabalo mo in English. Ayog inagkos ka. Kay kung inon nimkos ka, maulawan tayo, inan mo dito nga. Nursumin, sir. Nursumin. Nursumin, Your Honor. Ay, nako. O, depende because the judge will have to determine the expertise of the polygraph examiner. Meaning, una di ay, when you present as the polygraph examiner, when you present as a polygraph examiner in the court, you have to convince the judge that you are an expert on the field of polygraph examination. Meaning, ang lawyer ipatawag ka, Your Honor, we would like to present to your court, Dr. Juan de la Cruz is an expert on the field of polygraph examination. He will be testifying on this specific crime, blah, 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 blah. Tapos, present na ka, Your Honor, I am Juan de la Cruz. I am a graduate in Colegio de Santa Catalina de Alejandria with a Latin honor nga magna cum laude. I was rank 1 in the criminology board examination. So as endowed to me in Republic Act 11131, I am competent or I am qualified to become a polygraph examiner. I was trained in America for 20 years. 20 years, John. Tapos I already handled cases that utilize polygraph examination. The number of cases that I handled, which I won, was 300 cases. So, malipay yun ang Supreme Court anang paminaw sa imo ba. So this is my 301 case that I am handling that involves polygraph examination. O, di, mingon ang korte, okay, proceed. Pero pa yung korte, mingon na kalito nga, Your Honor, ni-graduate kos ka. Dako kay ko grado, 100 kos grado sa review. Kana ra imo nga i-present sa korte. Mingon ang korte, oy, pahawa diha, samok-samok lang ka. Wala imo ang presentation, di ka dawaton. Next, the public's opinion on the result is not allowed in court under any circumstances. My opinion a while ago on the veracity of polygraph examination result will not be considered in court. Okay, di ko nga, Your Honor, in my own opinion, I think polygraph examination is not convincible. Dili pwede. If such evidence is admitted, the examiner's testimony does not incline to prove or disapprove any element of the crime with which a defendant is charged, but at most tends only, paminaw ha, muna akong tubag, tends only to specify that at the examination, the subject was not telling the truth. Mao lang na, wala na'y prejudice sa lain nga area sa krimen. Buot ipasabot, there is small effect, too small, a diminutive effect of the polygraph examination result to the whole criminal investigation. Gamay ra day kayo ang iyang effect. Kaya nga naman, ang kanara di ay, kung nag-die siya, buti pasabot, dito ra nga, okay, galay siya na yung question, okay, wala problema, di lang siya galay. Pero it will not prove that he is guilty. Neither it will disprove that he is innocent. Okay? So, munay significance or implication sa polygraph. These are the cases that involves polygraph examination. People of the Philippines versus Amado Daniel. Pwede ninyo na yung ma-confirm sa Google kung ganahan mo, kaya basi mo gagama-gama ako. People of the Philippines versus Danilo Bahas. Crescencia Isaguirre versus Elvera Isaguirre and others. Munay gagamit og polygraph examination. So what is the accuracy of polygraphy? The preponderance of available information indicates that when properly trained examiner utilizes an established testing procedure, the accuracy of the decision made by the polygraph examiner is generally 85 to 95. Di dyan mahimong 100%. According to Reed and Horvath, experienced examiners only has an average of 91% accurateness. Sa inexperienced, usually 77.5%. Next, adri na ta sa relevant questions. Mula pa man siguro tani, maabot gyud tani. Ma'am Jet ba, maabot jud man nirog alas 6 ba? Pero ako ra ning ko nga makaabot tag alas 5.
Bitaw, sige, ikaw na sa tanong. Agad namin mo, sir. Thank you.
Ato ra ning cadets panalagsa ra bitaw ni. Panalagsa ra ni. Ato ni abuton. Tamas mahuman. At para mahuman niya, para maman ni. Ayaw mo ka problema, antos lang usa. Pagkahuman yung take sa board examination mo, pasara na mo, pwede na mo nga balag asa mo padulong. Okay, muna yung mga types of questions. Nga ito rang review. Relevant, meaning, these are questions that are relative to the investigation. Irrelevant, not relative to the investigation. If it is related to the investigation, relevant. Irrelevant, wala labot sa investigation. For example, between 8 in the morning to 8:30 in the morning of September 13, 2014, did you open the drawer of Mr. Peter O? So this is the question that involves robbery or theft. Robbery or theft. So may ka itong gi-open ba ni mo ang drawer kaya dito gibuta ang kwarta? Relevant siya. Nga naman? Related man sa investigation. Pero may kang, is your first name Juan? O madahag, apil pa na. Did you take a bath? Is it true that you are a male person? Is it true that you are a gay? Mga irrelevant na ang mga pangutana. Pero i-appeal na sa polygraph examination. Meaning, na irrelevant questions, na irrelevant questions. Nganong kinahanglan ang irrelevant questions? Because it's in the irrelevant questions wherein the polygraph examiner can establish the normal response or simply we call it as norms. Other types of questions, control questions. Ang control questions is relative to the investigation, but what you do is you assess the subject's perceptual set by taking a look on his experiences relative sa issue being investigated. So if the issue being investigated is robbery or theft, dapat ang imong control question ga-relate sa theft. Okay? For example, ang imong relevant is, did you open the drawer? O di ang imong control question, before attaining at the age of 33, have you ever stolen anything? You will know that it is a control question simply because it will tend to take a look or to reminisce previous experiences. Okay? Previous experiences. Kaya previous man. Before. Before you were 33 years old. Before you were at the age of 16. Before you were 20 years old. Before you transferred to Cosca, did you experience cheating? Ingon ana ba? Ingon ana. Mga before control questions. Evidence connecting question. This is still a question related to the issue being investigated, but usually in this type of question, you tend to pretend or you tend to connect the evidence found at the crime scene and consider it or to link it to the person being investigated. For example, one of the evidences found at the crime scene katong gikawatan was a slipper. So may ka nga, was the slipper found at the crime scene yours? Or nakikita kag fingerprint? So may ka ito nga, was the latent print imprinted at the wall of this building belongs to you? Ingon ana. Or was the hat found at the crime scene yours? Para evidence connecting questions. Was the M16 firearm found at the crime scene yours? Or was the clothing or the piece of clothing found at the crime scene belongs to you? Kana, mga evidence connecting questions na tanan. Knowledge questions on the other hand, this is again same relative to the issue being investigated, but in this type of question, you tend to ask if the person has personal knowledge on the whereabouts of the criminal. So mayon na dito nga, do you know someone who committed the crime or do you know who committed the crime? Knowledge question na. Sunod, sacrifice or DY80 questions. Ang sacrifice or DY80 questions, ang DY80 stands for do you answer truthfully? DY80, do you answer truthfully? Munang ginatawag siya og sacrifice. O ang iyang nakabuilt ring question, do you intend to answer truthfully all the questions I am going to ask you? In relevant and irrelevant technique, the sacrifice or DY80 questions are actually not implemented or not utilized. Ano man, di na magkaya ni siya, di siya comprehensive kung imong i-utilize ang sacrifice. Kaya ano man, kung gaon na kag ingon og do you intend to answer truthfully, muna ikatulo nimo nga pangutana, tapos paglantaw nimo sa response, deceptive ang iyang tracing, ana nga question, both ipasabot ang ikatulo, ikaupat, ikalima, o succeeding questions, dili nimo pwede nga mo rely ka, nga naman, sa sacrifice question, sayo pan siya daan. So kung may mo, ayaw og butang og sacrifice questions. Okay, mo punay kuan sa NBI, mo na usa sa mga advices sa NBI. Or SKY questions. Ano man SKY? SKY stands for suspect, know, and you. Una, do you suspect anyone in particular in stealing Florida's money? Kung yun do you suspect anyone in particular in stealing Florida's money? Kung kana nga question, knowledge questions siya. Pero combine siya nga tulo ka book, do you know? Do you suspect? Do you know who stole the money? Did you steal Florida's money? Tawag na SKY questions. Or the symptomatic questions intended to identify and assess the occurrences of outside issues. Example, are you now convinced that I will not ask you any question aside from the questions that we have reviewed? Again, kani dili po ni kayo magamit sa irrelevant o relevant technique anong pag polygraph exam na ano man kay kung deceptive siya ani, mayon siya dito nga no, o bisa nga yes. Yes, I am. Yun siya nga, yes. Tapos, paglantaw nimo is deceptive. That will affect his responses on the succeeding tracings. So, some important terms that we have considered. Zone, a 20 to 35 seconds block of the polygraph chart. 20 to 35 seconds block of polygraph chart. The chart time initiated by a question. Okay, ang gipag-initiate sa question ha, panalitan kung pila ka book blocks ang naigo sa unang nga pangutana kay dugang kayo siya tubag mo na siya gitawag zone. Track, it identifies a pair of test questions related for evaluation as in symptomatic question. Spot, identifies a track containing a pair or control relevant questions which are compared and quantified for determination of truth or deception to the target issue. For example, ang spot sa tracing sa galvanograph o ang spot sa tracing sa pneumograph imong i-compare para paglantaw kung deceptive ba siya. Psychological test, when the mind registers only some of the information it is exposed to, it is engaging in selective attention. Anticlimax, dampening concept, when two distinctly separate crimes are included in the same test, the suspect who is guilty may respond only to the crime which he feels to be the greatest threat to his or her well-being. The general rule of thumb is that one crime, one test. Dili pwede nga duha ka krimen imo siyang gi-appeal sa duha ka test. Like say, pwede siya may commit sa robbery o sa rape. Robbery, pag man niya pang rob, nato siya speakas balay, dahil nang rape na po siya, dili pwede nga i-include siya in one instrumentation. Dapat separate yun. Okay, mao ni technique akong giingon sa inyo ha sa pag-polygraph exam. Tawag ani relevant irrelevant technique. Nagkalahi-lahi ni og mga phases ha. Nani sa inyo nga review materials. GQT ang una ani mga choy. GQT. Ang GQT mao ni format na ha. Mao na po ni format nga gamiton nimo. Take note cadets, paminaw mo ha, balag kabalo kung gipaggutom na mo diha, pero paminaw jud mo. Ang pinakauna nga pangutana, general rule of thumb niya, ang pinakauna nga pangutana must be an irrelevant question. Akong usbon. Ang una nga pangutana should be an irrelevant type of question. Nga numang irrelevant, bingon ka dito, did you take a bath today? Irrelevant. Nga numang irrelevant? Simply because ang irrelevant question mo basihanan para mingon ka nga, oy, mao na ihang normal response. Ay maninuplok, pabaday ka nga, naligo ka ron. Or mingon ka dito nga, is your real name Juan de la Cruz? Maninuplok, pabaday ka, mingon kang yes. Sumot tayo normal tracing niya. Muna'y basa nga, oy, muna'y normal tracing niya. Wari ko diri sa question number 2, irrelevant na Japon, normal tracing niya. Oy, sa question number 3 kay relevant man. Oy, lahi man iyang response sa 1 ug 2, lahi man iyang curve line compared to 1 and 2 nga tracing. Buti pa sabot, the person is lying in this portion. Okay? So, unsa may process ani? You ask a question, okay? You ask a question, is your name Juan de la Cruz? Motubag siya og yes. Motubag siya og yes. Mopaabot ka og polo hangtod 15 ka segundos usa sundan nimo ang ikaduha nga pangutana. Ibutam na sa alimpatakan. Mopaabot kag polo hangtod sa 15 ka segundo usa nimo sundan sa ikaduha nga pangutana. Di kay mo diretso kag Is your name Juan de la Cruz? Did you take a bath? Paspas kay katsoy, wa pa kay katubag. Umupay pagtubag ni kuan kadayon. Pabot og 10 to 15 seconds nga naman kay ang pagpaabot mo sa 10 to 15 seconds para ma-establish ang iyang responses. Para maka-evaluate ka og maayo. So sa una, irrelevant, yung sunod relevant, balikan nimo irrelevant, yung strong relevant. Pareha na weak, strong. Ayaw na ng weak ug strong. Ayaw na i-consider niyo, basta relevant. Control question, irrelevant. Then sunod ang evidence connecting question, knowledge question, Secondary control, wala ikaduha na nga control question. Have you ever stolen, okay, from your current employment? Muna ha, pinaka questions, pulo kabuo. Madugay ni, bisag pulo ra questions. Why? Because you need to wait 10 to 15 seconds after each question. Unsay una to? Muna format sa GQT or General Question Test. Napaka sa phase 1, wapa ka nahuman. Mubalik pa ka, napaka test 2. Ayaw na ng test 2. Dito ka sa test 3, ang spot responder test. Ayaw na ng test 2 ha, discuss ko ng test 2 later on. Ang spot responder test. Maora dyan imong questions, ang purpose ani sa spot responder test is to find out the responsiveness of the subject to critical questions and to serve as a check on possibility of spot respond. So, imo siyang bayluon ra. Same ra dyan nga questions. Mag-una hapon ang irrelevant ang Q1. Anto diabot ka sa question 10. Unsay purpose? Para i-check nimo ang responsiveness or responses sa subject sa critical questions. Sunod, dapat ikatulo. Pagkahuman sa SRT, mo MQT na po ka ang mixed question test. Same ra dyan question 4 man lagi, sir. Unsa man ni question 4? Irrelevant Japon ni Brad. So, good yun kag irrelevant. Tapos, sa may purpose ani? To compare the degree of reaction between the relevant and controlled questions. Sunod, pwede na po kang mo-diretso sa silent answer test. In the silent answer test, what will happen is that the person will only sub-vocalize the answer. When you say sub-vocalize, di siya mingon nga yes, di siya mingon no. Meaning, mag-answer na siya mentally without speaking. Okay? Silent answer test. Okay? Ang pinakatapusan is the silent answer test. So, una, MQT, I don't know, general question test, the SRT, the spot responders test, and the mixed question test, then the silent answer test ang ikaupat. Sir, gano'n mo gilaktawan ang card or number test? Ako nang i-discuss ha. Ilaktawan ang card or number test because this is a separate test. The purpose of the card or number test was to find out the expertise or the credibility of the polygraph examiner. In the card or number test, wala mo ani og kabaraha. Muni nakaingon. Muni pinakalas nga akong factor na di jud ko moto ang polygraph examination. Ako magunang gisulayan. Ang nahimo, ako mo'y subject. Ang polygraph examiner sa file mo, ako ang polygraph examiner. Ako ko itong gituyo para magkaalaman jud ba. There will be 7 numbered cards. Like, these cards would be 15, 8, 5, 14, 12, 4, and 3. Ako kung gisulayan sa card number test para ma-determine kung expert pagod siya. Ang 7 ka cards nga na number i-face down na. I-face down, meaning the polygraph examiner will not know what specific number is selected by the subject. Tapos, by means of polygraph examination, the polygraph examiner will have to guess with accurateness, to guess the accurateness what specific number is picked by the subject. So, ang ako ang gipick is number 14. Wala na ako gipakita niya ang number 14. Tapos, kung mo answer ka, dapat tanan nimong answer sa 7 ka questions, puro no. No tanan ha. So, nangutana siya, did you pick number 15? So, di kong no. No man tanan. So, pag example niya, normal, try siya, kaya, wow, makunipik og 15, 14 man ko. Ningon siya, did you pick 8? I said, no. Kay no tanan ha. Yan siya. Dahil tracing, paabot o 15 seconds. Nangutana siya, did you pick number 5? No. Nangutana siya kusog, did you pick 14? Ningkong, no. Did you pick 12? No. Did you pick 4? No. Did you pick 3? No. So basically, out of the 7 questions, I was lying in number 14. But unfortunately, he was not able to guess. She was not able to guess that I was picking 14. Why? Because I was making unnecessary movement in 8 and 5. She was saying, "Oy, you picked number 8. Why? Naaman ang curve lines, ni taas man ug maayo." Pero in reality, akong gipick is 14. Ngano man, I was not making in any unnecessary movements when I responded on number 14. So kay naaman ang deviation sa 8 ug 5 kay ako amang manipulate ang machine kay nagama man ko ang necessary movement without his knowledge. Ang nahitabo niya, you pick number 8. Ako gipakita ang card. No, I did not pick up number 8. I picked up 14. So there I realized munang di ko mutuo ba aning polygraph. There I realized di na job ko mutuo ang polygraph examination. Or siguro di na gyud expert tong, ang polygraph examiner gagakuan ako. Pero depende na sa kuan ha. Depende na sa korte. Kaya ang korte nagdawat man sa polygraph examination. Problema na nila. So kung ganahan pa ka og lain nga test, pwede ka nga gawas atong GQT, MQT, SRT, pwede pa ka mo kuan og supplementary test, ang yes test. So sa yes test, in cases where there is distortion arises, pwede siya nga magpa-yes test ang polygraph examiner. Ang kining question, ang answer should be yes. On the other hand, the guilt complex test, di ba? Ang katong ato ang mga contributor, ang guilt complex test, this is, if the response on the previous test is doubtful, it becomes essential to conduct this test. This consists of a test concerning fabricated incident, if a similar nature but one which appears to be real insofar as the subject is concerned. The purpose of this test is to compare the responses of the subject from the previous test to the guilt complex test. Or, the peak of tension test na comprise of 7 questions. For example, do you know whether the stolen watch was Roy is an Adidas, katong nasa drawer? Citizen ba? Timex ba? Seiko ba? Rolex? Bulava ba? Guess. But in reality, ang nawala is Seiko. Nakabalo ang polygraph examiner, ang nawala ang Seiko. So, posible nga, dere magka-fluctuate or magka-deviate ang iyaha nga tracing. Wala na ni. Okay, last thing is on the chart markings. Ako nang appeal sa board examination cadets sa mock board ninyo. So when you do polygraph examination, before you start the test, ibutangan nimo og X sa tracing, before sa tracing, X. Bote pasabot, beginning. Humana kang test, imong gipa, double X. Bote pasabot, end of the test. Pagka humani mo ana, mayon ka nga, first question. Batawi, kaning double X, ato na nis last nga question na. Anong humanagyud ka? Una nga question, did you take a bath? Butang ka og, usa ka diagonal line, pak. Did you take a bath? Hulat ka og 10 to 15 seconds. Ningon siya nga, did you take a bath? Ningon siya, no. Ulat kag 10 to 15 seconds. Butangan nimo og double diagonal, signifying nga motoy spot. Moto siya moy division sa una nga question. Kung ang iyang answer is yes, plus sign. Kung no, negative sign. So, say may tabuan eh. Kung una nga question, butangan nimo og 1 usa ka diagonal. So, good og question. Did you take a bath? No. Ulat ka og 15 seconds. Pagkahuman sa 15 seconds, no man yung answer, butangan nimo og negative sign. Tapos sa negative sign, double diagonal. Bote ba sabot? Una nga question, ang iyang response is negative or no. Kung kasi siya yaw-yaw, other than what is required nga yes or no, butangan nimo og T. Okay? If you are running the pen, which I discourage, ayaw sa giparan ang pen. Kung ikaw gaparan og pen, nya gadalaga na ang polygraph paper, butangan nimo og TI. Talking. Coughing, letter C. Movements is letter M. Or while doing movement instructions, pwede kang butang MI. Or kaning close o open parenthesis, mechanical adjustment. CT for clearing of the truth. Outside noise could be OSN. S means snai. Snai, sigh. Kana mayon dito nga, hahay. Hahay, oh, sigh. Sniff, SN, sneeze, SC, burp. B, laughter. L, nanguyab. Y, VC, change of voice. IM, involuntary movements. Arm, meaning, na-discomfort. Nga nung na that's not that diha. Na mga line. Bote pasabot, arm, na human siya, unang discomfort, nga na-discomfort siya sa iyang cardio. Tapos hantod mahuman ang tracing na dito siya nga point nga naka-kuha na siya, naka-experience na siya o comfortability sa machine. BI, breathing instruction. RQ, repetition of the question. And PJ is paper jam. So, cardinal rules in the chart interpretation. So, kung humana ka og phase 3 at rin nakas phase 4, imong i-interpret. For you to know that there is deviation, there has to be specific response. Ang specific response, mo-consider siya specific if it is present in at least 2 test charts. Okay? 2 test charts. Buti pasabot. Kung deviation siya sa general question test, tapos deviation sa silence, sa spot responders test, pwede na to nga mong yung specific response ni. Nga pwede nga to affirm nga na deviation. If in case na deviation sa spot responders test on question number 4 or question number 5, but in question number 5 in spot responders test, wala deviation, ayaw i-appeal na siya. Okay? Ana lang at least 2 deviations into test charts. The specific indication of deception is the simultaneous specific responses in the 3 tracings of the chart. Buti pasabot, na-deviation sa galvanograph, na-deviation sa pneumograph, o na-deviation sa cardiopulmonograph. So, may na ka dito nga, specific response ni. Nganong specific response? Kay na deviation. Okay? Basun pala magklaro. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. I would like to end again the same practice that I usually do every time that I have a review. I would usually end with a quote, my personal quote: the distance between studying and passing is the same distance between your knees and the ground. All you have to do is to bend your knee, put it to the ground, you pray, because it is by prayer where you can find divine intervention. Remember, guys, cadets, the source of wisdom, the source of knowledge is no other than God. So I want you to pray so that you will pass. Okay? Let us have time for question and answer portion before we will exit from this virtual conference. Pangutana, please. Kay alas 5 na. Udalagan pa ko pa siya to. Sige, Cadet Marinho Ariel Velez, Arqueliano Garganera, Ramirez, Esparcia, and Lamena. Okay, Esparcia, you have questions?
Answer.
How about others?
Para sir, wala.
Sige, pangutana ko ha. Ako'y pangutana. Taganan ni yung unsa ni nga type of question, ha? Taganan ni ha, unsa ni nga type nga question, ha? Okay. I am very sorry for my background. The person behind my back is my wife. Sige, muna yung pangutana. Do you know who stabbed Juan de la Cruz? Unsa na nga type of question? Atong pa-answeron si... Ha? Unsa Esparcia?
Relevant.
Ang question man, Esparcia, is kuhan, do you know who stabbed Juan de la Cruz last September 21, 2020? Unsa na siya nga type of question? Somebody! Sige. Knowledge question na, ha? Knowledge question to. Ano ba ka? Do you know somebody? Do you suspect somebody? Knowledge questions to, ha? Cadets? Pero ang question ko ningon dito nga, did you stab Juan de la Cruz last September 20, 2021 at Bagakay, Dumaguete City, Negros Oriental? Kana, relevant question na siya. Okay? Did you stab this person? Relevant. Pero bayo ganito, do you know someone who stabbed? Ang tawag na is knowledge question. Okay? Knowledge question ha? Sabdon na to na. Sunod, pumunta na ko. Do you own the .45 caliber firearm found at the crime scene at the house of Maria? What is your answer? Unsa na siya nga type of question? Veles.
Relevant, sir.
Ang tawag ka to is evidence connected question. Makalilisan ang trabaho ng GPLoy. Evidence connected question to. Ano man? Evidence ba? I-connect. Makalilisan. I-connect ba nimo to the person who is the subject of the questioning. Evidence connected question ha. Evidence connecting question. Again, kung mayroong ganitag relevant, this asks a specific involvement or direct involvement of the person on the crime being committed. Did you steal? Did you stab? Did you shoot? Did you steal the money? Kana mga did you? Kana relevant na. Pero mayroon dito nga, do you own the slippers found at the crime scene? Evidence connecting question. Do you know somebody who steal? Knowledge question. Okay? Did you experience stealing when you were 10 years old? O saan ang type of question? Arkeliano. Yuhu! Cadet Arkeliano. Lamina, o saan ang type of question?
Relevant question, sir.
Ha? Control. O sakto si Arkeliano. Control to, Lams. Control ba? Kay control question, di ba? Niyo ko katong muisgot siya sa mga, murimini siya sa mga historical, mga experiences sa tao nga. Did you experience stealing when you were at the age of 11 years old? Did you experience, mga na ba? Control questions ha? Control questions. Last, wapajoy nakatagan. Kane ha? Did you take a bath? Unsa na Veles?
Evidence.
Unsa sa Veles?
Connecting question, sir.
Irrelevant, makalilisa. Irrelevant. Wala mo to. Did you take a bath? Irrelevant ba? Irrelevant question na to. Atong evidence connecting question, anong sabto binisayo na to? Ang evidence connecting question gani, kanang guys good of evidence. Muna, kaya ang evidence gi-connect. Muna, evidence connecting question. Kaya ano? Ang evidence gi-connect. Slippers found at the crime scene. Do you own or was the slippers found at the crime scene yours? Slippers ba? Slippers, evidence ba na? Diba? Do you own the blood stains found at the crime scene? Diba? Blood stain, evidence ba na? O evidence connecting question to. Diba? Katong clothes found at the crime scene, does it belongs to you? Evidence connecting question, Japon. Pero did you kill somebody? Did you stab Juan de la Cruz? Did you shoot? Relevant question na. Did you take a bath? Irrelevant. Diba?
Next question, sir.
Next
question.
Next question ha. Kani. Is it true that you have sexual intercourse with a gay? Or what is your response? Sparsha.
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Is it true that your age is Is it true that you are 40 years old? Unsa imong answer, Ramirez? Rams. Wala na sa Ramirez. Rams,
Yes, sir.
Unsa answer?
Unsa galit to, sir?
Well, Jay, klaro ni. Is it true that you are 20 years old? O, kana.
Sir?
Is it true? Oh, is it true that you are a girl?
Irrelevant, sir.
Oh, irrelevant. Sus ba? Natag-ana na jud. Oh, irrelevant. So mga inana ra ha. Tapos ag soft copy akong gata ni Ma'am Jpel. By the way, guys, kung unsay wala ninyo na sabte, wala jud ninyo na sabte. Sir, wa jud ko kasabot, sir. Pwede explain ina ra jud ko because I will really be open because it is also my responsibility as your paid reviewer. I am paid by you. I am really paid. I would really be glad if somebody will send me a personal message and would ask, sir, pasat na mag balik? Then I will answer you. Please let us help each other. I would really appreciate the students who will ask questions, ha? Paul, kay Ma'am JP will be providing you with a soft copy. Okay? So wala na tayo pangutana?
No, sir, nang sir.
Wala na. So thank you so much, ha? Thank you so much for your time. Our last discussion will be the week after next week, and that subject will be criminal justice system.